You know who Tom O'Neill is, who wrote the Chaos book?
Of course.
Have you heard
your episode?
Did you? What did you think about that story he told?
About Manson?
About Manson.
Made perfect sense. That was before I met Manson. And so he met a different Manson, because he met the Manson that was like, you know, into doing some wild stuff.
That's the Manson I would want to meet. I don't really, that's like, I don't like, it's, I feel like that with all musicians too.
Yeah.
Like, even like Gucci Man, I want the Gucci, the old Gucci before he went to prison when he was up on drugs all the time.
See, I like both. I like the old Gucci and I like the old Manson, but I'm happy that they're healthy now and that they're getting like, because I still think Gucci's putting out good music, and Manson's definitely. This record's one of my favorites of his. But like, yeah, I mean, 90s Manson is peak. You know, art for me. That's how I grew up on that stuff.
Yeah,
but his band is amazing. He's got the drummer from Dillinger Escape Plan.
Is that young dude?
Gil Sharon, I think is his name, on drums. He played on Ironworks on Dillinger. Amazing drummer. So they're like live. This band is insane. It's the heaviest he sounded.
Really?
Like it's like the 90s Manson, but now with like people from bands that I listened to like 10 years ago that were like big in that scene with like Horse the Band and Dillinger and all that good stuff. I love it. Yeah, he looks great.
He definitely looks skinnier.
It was a great show. Yeah, he killed it live. I was really impressed. And the audience it was like, I think I saw his second show back after everything that's happened, and he's been silent the whole time. So yeah, it was great.
that story Tom told just sounded like a dream come true, you know. Like I wouldn't need to. My life would be complete after drinking tequila and doing coke with Manson all night. Like,
I know. It's like the perfect way to meet that Manson. Probably before like the real downfall he went through with everything. Like they just attacked this dude ruthlessly, you know, for years. And I don't know. Manson's the guy who kind of taught me at a young age to not trust the media. You know, like how they came after him. I'm 39, and when I was in 8th grade, Columbine happened. And all of a sudden, I'm like, this person I listen to all the time is now like this devil in the news. And I'm like, they're portraying him in a totally different way. So from there, I'm like, well, I can't trust these people. These talking heads are trying to sell me on an idea that this person, who I find his art like interesting and engaging, that he's this demon who like made these kids kill people, which is fake.
So do you think this is peak Manson, or do you think it's
that's tough? Because I think there's different eras of peak Manson. I love Mechanical Animals. I love Superstar. I love Portrait of American Family. They're all really good. There's some moments in there where we're not peak. We'll say that. You know, like there were some times I'm like, there's good songs, but the albums weren't great. But this is a really good album. I love this new album. I was listening to it on the way here.
I'm gonna have to give it another shot.
It's great. It's heavy. It's huge choruses. He's saying something. Like it's his way. You know, I was upset for a while because I was writing about him during this whole like.
Oh, were you?
When they were like trying to just cancel him, whatever. Yeah. With that from Rachel Wood stuff.
Is that when he sobered up during that whole period?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. Probably sometime after, you know, they came after him. But like, I was thinking like, why isn't this guy is the best at coming out and just speaking his mind and putting everyone down, you know? And he was quiet the whole time. I was upset. And I'm like, you know, I think now in retrospect, his art is his greatest weapon. And that's what this is. Like, it might not be so blatant, saying, you know, screw these people, you know, this and that, but he is definitely speaking out against everything that happened to him and all these other people I'm sure he knows that's happened to, you know. Yeah. And so he survived it.
What was the actual outcome of it? Because there's been no like big reporting on it since it's ended.
Because it's like they settled.
All the headlines happened when he got accused, and then it kind of just fizzled out.
She won in the court of public opinion, but she's a total liar, fraud, you know, like Evan
Rachel Wood.
Yeah. She forged an FBI letter to get like, which eventually got to his house being raided. They took all his stuff in LA. And she like kidnapped her own kid, right, from her father and took him to Tennessee because of Manson, because she was telling the kid like, this guy's gonna get us. So she was creating a boogeyman for her little kid, which is abuse in my opinion. The kid's never met him. You know, he has no idea who Manson is, but he's drawing pictures of this like monster that his mom is telling him about.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
At the end, I think he won. It's just in the court of public opinion, it's kind of like how it's always been for him.
Right.
You know, he did.
You can never win. Like you've always lost once you had to go through that kind of stuff.
Yeah. But no, he seems awesome. The live shows are great, dude. I highly recommend it.
Really?
For sure. Oh yeah.
I don't know if they're touring down here, but that'd be sick if they did.
This is his home area. Right, he was Florida for a while.
Yeah, Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Yeah, after Ohio, he like went to Florida. Yeah.
You know what's funny? You know, did you see the guy out in the lobby repairing the computer?
I did. Yeah.
You want to hear a funny story?
Yes.
His dad was the manager of a furniture store in Fort Lauderdale and worked with Manson's dad at the furniture store.
No way.
They were both fucking furniture salesmen.
Hilarious. His dad sounded like a wild dude too, like dressing up like in Kiss outfits and stuff. You know, like this is why we got Manson, because his dad was like in the Kiss army.
Right,
you know?
right.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I love that. But yeah, no, it's sick. But I think what happens now is like the fans understood what happened, and like they've been through so many cycles of whatever you want to call. I hate the word cancel. I hate cancelization. It's just a dumb word now. It's like watered down like all these other words in the news. But he's been through it for so long, and through all the battles that you know, he won, and he's like selling out tours now and killing it. In Europe and all this stuff.
So how did for people that don't know you started working with Tim Pool a few years ago, and like so you're like a journalist, sort of like music journalist, and then you started like participating in the podcast, and then you did a piece on Kanye, like
I've done a little bit of everything.
Sort of like bio thing on
it was
Kanye.
Crazy. I was a professor for a while, like for like almost 10 years. I taught like English and journalism and stuff like that, and I was also freelancing at the time as a music journalist and all types of stuff. I wrote about history and whatnot. I wrote for Pitchfork a few times. And so I was kind of doing everything and not political stuff at all. But then like when lockdowns happened, I felt like I was going to puke if I didn't actually say what I was experiencing in New York, where I had a governor who was like a genocidal maniac, you know, murdering all these old people. So I had to say something, and then I kind of like losing my job. I can't be professor anymore because I'm refusing to get the shot they want me to take, all these things. And so I quit. And I had nothing lined up, but I had forgotten like 6 months prior, I applied to something that Tim said, right? And he had a show at night, and I didn't tune in all the time, but I tuned in one day. I'm like, oh, he's asking for a writer who does exactly what I was doing. Because I did a little bit of everything: true crime, weird conspiracy stuff, music, a little bit of all that. And so after I quit the professor job, a week or two later, Tim hit me up. I thought it was fake. I was like, I'm so desperate. I'm going to just go to West Virginia and see what's. I forgot West Virginia was a state. I was like, that's a real thing. So I went down to West Virginia, and I was hired that day. And so I started off just doing the Inverted World show, but it was like a serialized stories, you know, true stories about different events, you know, conspiracies, ghost stories, paranormal stuff, that kind of morphed into books, and then that morphed into like me doing the weekly show. But throughout all that, I just had all these crazy opportunities because Kanye came by that what was it, like November 2022, and it didn't go well. People probably remember. He walked out of the studio. Tim was like, I don't know what he was saying, but Kanye was not feeling it, and he got up and walked out. I happened to be there because Tim told me the day prior that was going to happen, and I've been like a giant Kanye fan. I wouldn't be a Kanye fan if I wasn't for a Manson fan, right? Because I see them as very similar. Yeah, in my mind. For sure. They're both like, you know, testing the zeitgeist constantly. So I was there, and he walked down after he walked out of the studio, and I was right there, and I tried to get him to go back upstairs. I was like, yo, people want to know what you're talking about. Like, I believe what you're saying. Like, it's crazy, but it's like, go up there and just tell people what you're saying. Cause you know, it'd be great. He was like not into it. And then I'm like, I can tell by his body language, he just doesn't want to talk about that. That is done now. Whatever was upstairs in the studio. Yeah.
Why did he actually walk out?
It was something about like, I think Tim was rehashing conversations he had about, you know, like the contracts and the Jewish lawyers that he had all week long about with like Lex Friedman. Right. And I think he was like rehashing that. And Kanye kept saying like, I don't want to talk about something like that. I forget exactly what it was. But when he left, you know, that's where the whole thing, like, who is they though, came from that conversation. So it was like, it was a pretty wild time. And he came downstairs, and I'm like, all right, let's just talk about music. So we talked about music real quick. I brought up his opera that no one talks about, which is he wrote a great opera. And he invited me to LA, and I went out to LA, and then I spent the weekend with him going to church. And
going to church?
Went to church, went to Bible study. The first day we were at the Yeezy headquarters, because I was just going to profile him, and I thought it was just going to be the one day. And I've been a fan of his for so long. Like in June of that year, I just tweeted out like, I'm going to interview Kanye one day. And then a few months later, it just like happened. Wow. It was very bizarre. The CIA might be behind it. I don't know. Like, who knows how this happened. But I was out there for the day, and we had a great conversation about politics, religion, parenthood. And it was like funny because the whole world was on fire, because this is like the day after he was on Alex Jones and said, I love Hitler. God. So now the whole world's on fire. I'm in the airport as he's saying that, and people are telling me not to go. And I'm like, there's no way I'm not going. Like, it's important to me, but I want to hear like from him, like, what's this all about? I think my whole interpretation was it's like Andy Kaufman. You know, I think he means a lot of this stuff, but I know
who's Andy Kaufman?
He was like a great performative comedian. Comedian's kind of like not the best word for him. He was on SNL for a while, but he did a lot of. He was known for like.
Where like he doesn't acknowledge that he's doing, like he's performing. He just kind of like leans into it and says it's real.
Yeah, no one really knew if it was a bit or not.
Steve? Oh, this has nothing. This is old stuff.
Is that Andy Kaufman from the past?
Yeah, that must be Andy Kaufman's.
There you go.
Ashes.
I love Andy Kaufman. So, and I knew Kanye liked Andy Kaufman, so I wanted to go and get his perspective on it. So it was like funny though. The whole world's on fire because of him. You know, Elon had just banned him off Twitter. All these things were happening. But inside that headquarters, it was like totally normal. Everything's fine. We were laughing, talking about art.
Really?
And it was just like, I think there's more to this. You know, I think he's definitely coming from a place of honesty with a lot of it, but a lot of it's also like, I want to push every possible button right now and see what happens, you know, which is reminding me of like a Manson.
Did he acknowledge this?
Yeah. When I asked him about that, I said, is this Andy Kaufman? He said, it's Andy Kaufman and Bruce Lee together. So we had a good talk, and then he invited me to go to church the next day. And I didn't think that was actually going to happen, but he sent me the address and I showed up. He shows up all alone. Well, two guys. He had a driver and a homeless man that he picked up off the street, who he called his biblical scholar. And straight up, this dude,
biblical scholar.
This dude had like a jug of water.
Biblical scholar.
Yeah. Wow. We sat next to both those guys in church, and then I wrote some lyrics, and we just had a good time. And I thought that was it. And then I went home and wrote my story. And, you know, people were not happy. There's some people who were like, this guy, you know, is a anti-Semite for even talking to Kanye West.
You're an anti-Semite?
Oh, yeah. There's like on Media Matters.
Aren't you Jewish?
Yeah, I was raised Jewish. I'm Christian now, but I was raised Jewish. That's why I was talking to him out there, because I'm like, you know, my experience growing up, I had a Catholic dad and a Jewish mother, so I was raised like a real messed up, you know? And I'm like, what you're talking about with a lot of people is so foreign to how I grew up, like poor on a farm. Yeah. But I also understand like what you're saying, because there's a lot of people in the industry who have power who treat you wrong. But I'm just trying to say like, it's also like this as well, right? But at the time I was actually like really thinking about being baptized, and I had been since.
Really?
Oh yeah, after years of being militantly atheist.
Wow.
Oh yeah,
Christianity's in vogue right now, man.
It is. It's really what's the Zoolander line? It's really in right now.
Podcast hosts are getting baptized left and right on Instagram.
I actually brought my holy water. We can do it when we're.
Oh, did you really?
No.
I had a guy bring holy oil in here one time.
But I was thinking about being baptized at that point, and for a year prior to me meeting Kanye, I'd done a podcast with a friend of mine, and I mostly talked about how I don't know how to pray, and I was really interested in praying, and I didn't know how. I felt like a fraud praying, and after years and years of just straight up mocking God all the time, like I was just like an atheist and just didn't know any better, and that's it's whatever. But the atheism was a form of religion.
Yes.
And when I went to Kanye, it was funny because when I got home, the story's published. I thought that was it with Kanye. He would call me all the time. So we were on the phone now, like constantly, every day, multiple times a day. And what he wants me to do is to help him write prayers. So it was hilarious to me that after a year of me like publicly saying like I want help writing prayers or knowing how to pray, now he's like, we're writing prayers, and he's like, it's like a creative writing workshop where I'm texting him prayers, and he's texting back criticisms of how to make this better, stronger prayers. And like we would do that and like write lyrics. So, it was profound for me just because I was already in the mindset of like religion being important to me all of a sudden, because I knew I wanted my kids to have some religion. Even though I was like, even though I was like, I don't need it. But I want my kids to have it, just because I felt like the moral structure of society was disintegrating, and they needed some kind of foundation to inherit the future that's going to be depraved. And all futures, it's always depraved. Yeah. The world is like a crazy world, and you're always going to have bad things out there. But for me and my wife, we were like, religion is going to be like an anchor for them. So I took it seriously for them at first. And then for me, it became serious. I took it more seriously like later on. So yeah, it was a weird turn of events. So like I do all those in terms of like the stories and writing with Tim. The Kanye thing was like such a different change of pace from all the inverted world stuff.
Right.
It was like, why is Shane even going to LA to talk to Kanye? It made no sense, right? To anyone else I was working with, unless they knew I was a Kanye fan, because it wasn't like a ghost story. It wasn't aliens. It wasn't anything.
Right.
But it was like the perfect story for me. And it gave me a lot of opportunities after that to then write a lot of different profiles of people in politics and outside of politics and in music that were really like awesome to do. You know, I got to talk to MIA and Billy Corgan, stuff like that, and then politicians and whatnot, which are not as much fun in my opinion, because they're liars.
Yeah, it was interesting to see his the little video he did with academics, where he like showed up at the hotel and he just seemed like totally normal guy, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Hold on, let me get my costume out of my backpack."
That was a perfect example of Andy Kaufman, because if you watch that interview, he shows up, it's super normal, like how I was explaining in the Easy headquarters.
Yeah.
And then he tells academics, "I'll be right back." And if you look at that exact moment, he looks at the camera and smiles. He smirks.
Yo, Steve, is your address 6969 Road?
Yeah.
And your kid's name is...
please don't share that with the internet.
Bro, the internet already knows. That's my point. I just found that out by Googling it.
Can you ungoogle it?
I don't like this kind of stuff being out there any more than you. And that's why today's episode is sponsored by Aura. Aura is an identity protection service. Ever wonder how scammers and robots can get your email and phone number so easily? That's because there are these companies that are data brokers that sell all of your information. They are legally required to remove your info if asked, but they make it difficult. Aura finds these information stores, takes care of the hard part, and deletes it. Data scraping is a constant battle from your devices and websites, giving your information away, which is why I recommend Aura's services to all my friends and family.
But not Steve, your producer?
I need to use you as an example, Steve. I cannot tell you how much of my whole entire life was just freely available floating around the internet. I had them scrape all my social, home addresses, kids' names, everything. Their entire brand is personal security, from dark web alerts to VPN to 5 million in identity theft protection, contained in an all-in-one, easy-to-use interface. It's one app for every layer of protection, and it's super easy for me, which is why I choose Aura. Just click the link in the description to try Aura free for 14 days. It'll be enough time for them to start scrubbing your info from these data broker websites. Again, click the link in the description for a free 14 days of Aura, and make that the easiest click you've ever done for your personal security. I'm not leaving myself vulnerable, and neither should you.
And you're like, oh wow, it's funny to him. Like he comes out, and it's like a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode.
Yeah,
he comes out, it's like Larry David complaining about the hood in my Klansman outfit.
It's hiding my swastika chain.
Yeah. And then he puts on Tim's. You know, it's hilarious. The only thing I'll say is different with Andy Kaufman is you never knew when he was being honest. I do think Kanye saying things he does probably believe. The Twitter is a different story, because I think he's just pushing every like nuclear button at the same time. But he definitely has issues with these people in the industry, and like the way he sees, you know, the things operating behind the scenes with Kendrick and the Super Bowl, and like how you take out these celebrities. Because when I was with him, we were talking a lot about Prince and Michael Jackson, and he was worried that was his future, right?
Oh, really?
And they were both kind of, in my opinion, and his, murdered, right? Like Prince was given fentanyl, and he didn't know it was fentanyl. He thought it was taking a painkiller. And that person, I don't think they even found that person. You know, and Michael Jackson's doctor went to jail for like 2 years.
Right.
For giving him propofol.
Propofol, yeah.
You know, and Kanye, having had that experience of being put away years prior, really put him into ideas like MK Ultra.
Yeah.
You know, and having
what
a handler.
Was that crazy story with that dude Harley?
Pasternak.
Yeah.
It was like his trainer. And he's like a trainer for lots of celebrities.
Those text messages were fucking spooky,
dude.
man.
I would, as a father, I would not take that lightly. Like he was threatening your family.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, you know, Kanye's
play dates will never be the same.
Insane. And it's kind of what happened. Like I'll say, like
it is kind of what happened.
Kanye didn't make it easy for himself by doing certain things, you know, when it comes to the family and stuff, because it's easy for them to play that against him, be like, see, like he's crazy and stuff like that. So it's like hard, you know. I have issues sometimes with some of the things he does in terms of sacrificing the innocence of his children, you know, with things that he brings around them. And, you know,
what is the story with that Harley guy? Is he just some personal trainer, or what? Do we know what his background is?
He's like a Canadian like handler. From what I understand. Yeah, I don't know too much about him, but like I know he kind of oversees lots of celebrities. I think Justin Bieber is one of them as well. And a lot of these people who you see under his umbrella have issues, like big time. Like Bieber's, and I don't know what his deal is, but people are saying he's like MK Ultra now. I think it's possible, you know. I think
it's totally possible.
They go after celebrities, they create celebrities, they drug celebrities. You know, what was it? Weird Scenes from Laurel Canyon. Did you ever read that one?
No.
It's a good book to read after you've read something like Chaos.
Okay. What's it called? Weird what?
I think it's Weird or Wild Scenes from Laurel Canyon. And I'm going to say it's not really well written, but it's got great information and interesting connections. And it's all about how basically like the counterculture was created in Laurel Canyon. from like the Mamas and the Papas, Frank Zappa, and how a lot of them might have been CIA connections. Weird
scenes inside the canyon.
I think the author's gone now, unfortunately. But it's good. People like talk about this a lot when they talk about Chaos. It's not as well written as Chaos is like a masterpiece. I love that book.
Right.
But this is really good to read after that, and also read with like Poisoner in Chief. That's a great book as well.
Yeah, Laurel Canyon, Covert Ops, and the Dark Heart of the Hippie Dream.
Yeah, and they talk about like creating characters out of actors. I forget the guy's name now. There was one actor who was like the first guy to be arrested for having weed in like the 50s or 60s. I'm forgetting his name. Some kind of like, he was a megastar.
Yeah.
But in the book, they talk about how this was all pre-planned because they wanted to create a certain type of vibe for this guy, right? Because it's like, how do we make him look like a bad guy in the public? And so, and it goes into a lot of connections with like Morrison's father, and Vietnam and stuff like that. And Zappa's father, I think he was like a bio-warfare type guy or some kind of chemical warfare guy.
Holy shit. Dude.
There's weird connections. And you can just be like, well, there's coincidences,
Yeah.
I don't really believe in a lot of coincidences, especially when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah.
Because we know they pump out these people. Like Laurel Canyon, if you read this book, sounds like it was an assembly line. And also Mountain Look Observatory is up there.
What?
That's where they say they filmed the moon landing. It's like a giant CIA underground headquarters. It's huge. Jared Leto owns it right now.
Mountainwood?
Mountain Look, I think. I think it's called Mountain Look Observatory.
Is that what Bart told us? Bart said it was somewhere in Nevada, I think, maybe. I don't remember. He said it was named some Air Force base.
Whatever goes on there, they say like tens of thousands of propaganda films were pushed out of this place. And like major stars would go there and hang out, and no one really. I don't know what came out of it, but that it's there.
Dude, I saw a photo yesterday of Stanley Kubrick in somewhere in Europe where they were filming 2001: Space Odyssey, and he was like walking from the studio to like another building or whatever, and fucking Jolly West is standing right behind him.
No way.
Yeah, find it. Google Stanley Kubrick, Jolly West.
Holy crap.
I think it was Brent from the dude we had in here last week who made that video.
Oh, that's crazy.
Dude.
Seeing that guy show up
Jolly
anywhere.
West is everywhere.
Yeah, that's insane.
Turn on the volume.
Landing. I've said this in other lives before. There's a picture of Stanley Kubrick when he's doing 2001, and he's in England. They called the studios NASA East, which is hilarious. And he's doing his shoot there, and there's a picture of him walking with a group of guys, and they have them all identified, except for one guy behind them. He's in a row behind them walking. And that guy that they didn't identify, that has never been identified, is Louis Jolyon West of MKUltra. And West was a specialist in mind controlling people, creating cults. There's a large portion of his information that's never made it out into the public that he was working a lot with UFO people and witches and Satanists and all that to create those subcultures. Jolyon West was running one of the free clinics in one of the counterculture areas of San Francisco. Jolyon West was running it at the time clandestinely, and Manson was there getting treatment with the Manson family. And so Jolyon West was involved with that. Jolyon West was involved with Jack Ruby. Jolyon West was involved with Sirhan Sirhan. Jolyon West was involved with Whitley Strieber, the UFO guy.
Didn't know that.
Jolyon West was involved with
Neither did I.
The Stanford Research remote viewing experiments. Jolyon West was involved with a lot of things, guys. If that's where the moon landing was shot.
This guy's awesome.
Yeah,
Brent,
follow this guy.
He like covers all the craziest conspiracies, but he calls out all the bullshit online.
That's good.
Because all of these like the whole UFO religion that exists and all these other psychedelic religion that he calls out all the crazy just bias that happens online with these people and like how stupid it's becoming.
Well, yeah, people in every industry, including the conspiracy world, want confirmation bias. So they're willing to accept anything if it fits. It confirms their narrative that they want to believe in. I wonder if Jolly West ultraed the astronauts, like personally. Was he alive still?
Might have been. Oh yeah. Find out, when did Jolly West die?
Because those guys looked crazy when they came back.
Yeah.
Like I think they might have ultraed the women who went to fake space yesterday.
1999.
Oh my goodness. What? He lived that long? That's a lot of people.
That's wild.
Yeah. Look at it. That's crazy, dude. I would love to see, I haven't read a book on him or anything. I've just seen what Tom O'Neill has written about him. And like the tertiary stuff, you know, Sirhan. I didn't know about Whitley Strieber, but that's alarming.
I had no idea about Whitley Strieber either.
Yeah, these people, these are like the psycho magicians, you know, that the CIA, they talk about it in Poisoner in Chief, you know, when they literally hired magicians to help them figure out how to control people's brains and create illusions, you know, and they did that with the help of hallucinogenics and stuff. And, you know, Ruby, it's insane.
Did you see the interview of Jolly West right after he had that meeting with Ruby when he went to prison or whatever? He came out and he was just like, immediately, I don't know if you can find the actual video of it. It's kind of hard to find, but it was in Tom's new documentary on Netflix, the new Chaos documentary.
I haven't watched it.
Dude, it's so good. And he comes out and he just basically like, he's mentally unstable and he's unfit for a trial.
Really?
Oh yeah. Like within 3 hours of visiting him, he comes out and just basically makes the claim that he's completely unfit and mentally unhealthy.
And they say in the book that he seemed fine up until Jolly showed up. Right. Like everything was cool. Yeah. And all of a sudden, like that's why I feel like the Scarecrow from Batman is Jolly West. You know, he goes in and scares these people with some type of drug, and then they all of a sudden lose their minds. Right. That's what this guy is.
Yeah, man. It's crazy shit.
Now you just got to think about like who's the Jolly West today. It's probably not even a person. It's just a bunch of things working together to slowly dose you out of your mind. Nice slow dose out of the sky or whatever they're putting it in your water.
Yeah, they don't need drugs to control minds anymore. They got computers to do that. They got social media and all this stuff to do all that work for them.
Yeah, they're definitely doing that. I was the whistleblower from Facebook. Did you see any of this from yesterday?
No.
They had this crazy whistleblower about Facebook before the Senate, and she was talking about how Facebook secretly watches, like they can target specific age groups. And in particular, she was saying Facebook was looking at 17 to 18-year-old girls, and if they delete a selfie, it might mean they're a little depressed. And they send that data to advertisers because they believe that when you're sad, you're more willing to buy something.
Really?
Yeah. And like she had this whole thing about it. Like it's insane, you know, and like they're just harvesting all the data.
This was just yesterday?
A day or two ago, yeah. Yep.
Wow.
She's saying, and she's, you know, who knows? I feel like everyone lies when they're testifying, but she's saying that he, you know, Zuckerberg was lying under oath about all that years ago because they were worried about this back in 2018.
Right.
How they target people either individually to censor them or like large groups of people to see if they can sell to advertisers.
Right.
So that's just like one type of group, you know, the young teenagers, you know, women who seem depressed and they're like, well, they might need this new handbag. We're going to send this information to this so-and-so, and then they're going to get this ad now. And they're monitoring it that closely.
That's crazy, dude.
That's dark, dude.
That is dark.
That is very, very dark world. I don't want my kids to have social media.
No, me neither. I don't want my kid to have a smartphone.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm going to give my kid like a telephone booth.
A telephone booth?
Yeah. Like you're Superman now. I just don't trust it. I think it's very harmful.
I think there's like this kind of like small movement of tech companies trying to like dumb down technology to make it more primitive. Like there's this company that I have this thing right here. This thing is called a daylight computer. It's basically like a computer / iPad. Yeah. And there's no blue light in it at all.
I like that.
So like the blue light like really fucks up the chemicals in your brain when you do it, and it's super addictive. It's like a dopamine slot machine, like when you're staring at a phone. And this thing has none of it. It's only like the red amber light. And it's like really good for reading. So like if I sit up at night and I like will read a PDF or read a Kindle book on this thing, I'm asleep within 30 minutes. Oh, that's awesome. I can't sit up and read, like with a Kindle or with a phone, you can sit up for hours and scroll through stuff. And next thing you know, it's 1 in the morning.
I've been doing this. The red light. Yeah. It's not as good, but it helps.
No, it definitely helps.
Addicted, and I'm reading like a crazy person, all this stuff. And it definitely has helped. But like I prefer, that's awesome.
Yeah, dude, this thing's incredible. And there's also companies that are selling like phones that are like super dumbed down with like no connection and like, you know, the only calls and texts.
I just keep telling my wife we're going to be Amish. I'm slowly removing every piece of technology from my house until she wakes up and we're Amish. Like, welcome back to the past. Like I grew up on a farm, dude, without like anything. anything. I mean, we had things, but I didn't have a computer growing up.
Yeah.
We had a TV at a certain point, but that TV only had a few channels. So I realize I have like weird Luddite capabilities like in me already, just from like not having air conditioning, not having internet, and like having to have special permission to like handwrite my essays to hand into school because they're like, oh, poor Shane doesn't have a computer to pronounce. Like my chicken scratch is now being handed in, and like I learned about computers way later than everyone else. Like obviously, I go to friends' houses and be like, oh wow, that's cool. I can use Napster here or something.
Yeah.
I'm reading magazines and stuff, so I know what's going on. I wasn't completely under a rock, but pretty under a rock. But like I just see there's so many positives come out of this stuff, but I think the negative stuff outweighs the positives, especially when you're seeing kids who are raised in that world.
Yeah.
And like I think it's good that they're trying to dumb down technology and get it back to its core, but there's so many kids who are trapped in like this fake their digital life means more to them than their real life, which is why I think we have more nihilism today and people with meaninglessness. And there's like, violence is a human, it's always been here, but there just seems to be like a different type of recklessness and nihilism today.
Yeah.
With kids, like they're, killing themselves by accident, making selfies. Yeah. It's all for the digital, for the likes and stuff. And then knowing that those companies like Facebook, what I was just telling you, they take advantage of that. So they're like steering you, which is then what you were saying, MK Ultra, but we're MK Ultraing ourselves.
Yeah. But like, is it futile to try to fight it? Or is this just the way we go?
We have
because
to
like
fight it.
fundamental, like with human beings, we are human beings because of technology.
Yeah.
Like if it wasn't for fire, we wouldn't look the way we look today.
Right.
No, you know what I mean?
I don't want to be anti-tech because I love that we get to do this.
Yeah.
This is amazing. I got to fly here. And if I drove here, it would be 24 hours. It'd be,
Right.
This is amazing. I'm not anti-tech. And I think that's the Luddites kind of get a bad rap because they weren't anti-tech either. They were anti like the tyranny of mass autonomy. So like they were using the technology of the day in 1810 or 1811, like the weavers, to make textiles. But when factories were being built and being filled with those machines and displacing those people's jobs is when they started attacking the machinery. So they weren't technically anti-tech, and I feel like, although I'm against the violence aspect, I'm against being, automated out of work, and that's going to happen across the world. So it's inevitable. It is futile. I think I just think it's going to come down to like society having more ethics built into it, but it's going to be on an individual level because the companies that are doing it, like Facebook, like Google, like all these places, their ethics aren't a thing. They're working directly, like Zuckerberg. They're saying in that whistleblower thing the other day, he's working directly with China to build a censorship regime, and they're censoring people.
Zuckerberg is?
For years. They called it a censorship regime, and they called the person who was it? The chief editor. It's like so Orwellian. So this person would oversee all these things. If anything got a certain amount of likes, the chief editor would come to his desk and be like, okay, we got to deboost this or whatever, or just nuke it out of into oblivion. And the Chinese government, through these, leaks that they're getting with the emails and stuff, they would say like, hey, this is someone on American soil right now, but he's saying stuff we don't like here in China. So you got to like get rid of that account. And they would do it. So like they have no ethics. And I think like Zuckerberg's a complete fraud. When he has this rebrand lately, it's like, I'm pro-Trump and I have a fro now.
He seems so unnatural with the chain.
I understand. Like, yeah, he looks like Lil Dicky, Like, I don't buy a thing this guy says at all.
I just like to read the comments of his interview with Rogan. It's so bad.
I was cringing for him. I was like, when Rogan asked him about the bow and arrow, he's like, Rogan knows about his bows and arrows.
Oh yeah, I saw that clip.
And Zuckerberg's like, he's like, you can see him malfunctioning.
Oh, it's old.
Sparks are flying.
It's definitely old.
It's got a sharp point at the top. But like, it's funny because people buy into it because when it comes to politics, lately, everyone's so like, they want to be liked so bad by the people they think they hate. Like when it comes to like a rich, like wealthy, famous person, the right who seems to be so against it lately, the second Elon or Zuckerberg does a rebrand, they're like, we love him, they share great memes, and he like surfs and wears American flags. But like Zuckerberg is a straight up liar.
That's not surfing. He's doing that whatever stupid fucking electronic foil board like a dork.
Stupid. That video is ridiculous. But
only something a billionaire would think was cool.
Right. So I don't know. These people have no ethics.
Yeah.
And seeing allegedly now that Zuckerberg's working so closely with like the Chinese government which is in direct opposition to our government. Yeah. It's like, okay, we can't trust these people, and he's probably lied under oath. And I think that kind of extends to all these guys who are running the government currently. It
feels weird right now. Like the whole way the whole podcast landscape is like so in lockstep with the current like presidential administration.
It's gross.
And how they all were like there at the inauguration together was so weird to me.
Yeah, I think it's the end of that world. I think we're going to see this whole space is going to go through like a real tectonic shift.
Yeah, I think
people
so
are going to like not make it. People are going to get better. But this administration totally. I mean, and rightfully so. It was smart to use the podcast world, right? Because the other side wasn't. Like Kamala, they paid, they call her daddy people. They paid for a fake studio, and that show didn't really get numbers.
Right.
No one cared.
Right.
No one cares about that host. Mm-hmm. I'm sure she's got some fans out there, but like it wasn't a cultural shift. Mm-hmm. Trump doing Rogan was a huge moment.
Yeah.
Everyone watched that episode. Yeah. It was pretty hilarious. I enjoy seeing him do interviews, but like. Now that they've gotten to office, watching what I would call the dissident voices from the so-called right, or whatever that is, the podcast space, now they're so in lockstep with the establishment without questioning anything.
Right.
I'm like, this is how we get back into more problems, guys.
Exactly.
And then they really don't like when you criticize them because they're like, well, we got it. Our guys are in office. They're doing the best they can. It's only been 3 months. I'm like, yeah, but they're only allowing people around them right now who ask either illegitimate criticisms, like from like the corporate press, and their questions don't mean anything, or people who are asking just nice, easy questions, And I think there's like real legitimate concerns that this administration should be asked, like these questions about all the people around it and what they're doing. And I understand it's still early, but like, it's, if you're looking at it from the political side of things, they only have a little bit of time before the midterms. So like people are going to want to see real change in like a year,
right?
Before then they're about to go vote again for the people, for the midterms for senators and all that stuff.
Yeah,
congressmen. So right now he's kind of got everyone almost at his disposal, but it's going to change quickly. And then like I've been calling it the day like independent media died was the binder gate thing, when everyone got the Epstein binders. Did you see that? Oh my
God,
that was the most embarrassing thing. And like I know a lot of those people who were there, and I'm not mad at them per se. Like I'm mad at the administration, unless they knew about it. They all say they don't. So like I don't know that, but the administration, in my opinion, set up a photo op and walked them out for the stunt, right?
Yeah.
Because they're like, someone will be like, "Oh, we didn't know." Okay, fair. And then they just gave us a bunch. I'm like, they printed out a prop to put in your hand,
right,
and then walked you out into a lawn where the photographers were. They'll say, "Well, they were there for so and so who was visiting from whoever was here from another country," and they're like, "But there's other ways you can have left the White House. Why did they give you a prop to hold and walk you out in front of the photographers?" Right. And it's not about just anything. This is about one of the darkest, most sinister things that crimes that hurt children.
Yeah.
And now you're condensed it down to you dancing with a binder. I was like, this is a bad look for independent media, and like, I think independent media has all the same problems as corporate press. Cause it's just like a human nature thing. There's greed, there's narcissism, all that ego, all that stuff. So it's gonna be interesting to see like how these people navigate that world now that they've got their guy in office. Cause it's, I'm seeing a lot of people just post, selfies, at the special events. And then, I'll get the stuff like, "Oh, Shane's jealous. He's not there." I'm like, I would love to go and ask the question, but I know the questions I'm asking, I won't be invited back.
Yeah.
So I love that. I'll ask the questions, but they're not letting me back after that. Cause I got bigger problems at play here. Cause it's about our future and it's about the future that our kids are inheriting. They're building like a dystopia around us. So
yeah. And there's all these like huge people on social media and on podcasts like Chamath saying like not jokingly talking about like Trump needs a third term.
I know.
And it's crazy. It's and then Steve Bannon, like,
I know, and I love Bannon too, but like I don't want that. And I'm not going to vote for Vance. Like I don't like Vance. Really? I think he's really smart. He says things I really like, but he's got connections to Peter Thiel, which is someone like another one of these tech guys, venture capitalists that he was born out of Peter Thiel. That's his mentor. He created him. Vance saw Thiel talk at I think it was Yale, loved the speech, and then Thiel helped him start his own venture capitalist firm and funding stuff, and they're in Rumble and all that stuff and all these types of things. And I think Thiel is one of the most like nefarious actors.
Really?
And he's like deeply embedded in the right because he's one of Trump's biggest donors.
Have you seen what he's been doing with Silicon Valley and
he's a vampire?
And he's behind this huge new effort to basically map Christianity onto everything that's happening in Silicon Valley, and he's like he's part of this church, and they're doing these huge conferences.
I haven't seen that. I know he claims to be Christian. He's a strange guy.
He's a gay really Christian billionaire,
married gay Christian. He is a transhumanist vampire though. We'll get to that in a minute. They all are, but like he says things I think he's an extremely smart dude. Yeah. Like, and he's been around for a minute. He unfortunately he helped build the surveillance state post 9/11 with Palantir and all these things. And I'm really against the surveillance state. I really think that is super dystopian. And he's made, I'm sure, billions of dollars off war. On all the wars, right? Plus the surveillance state here and around the world. And he's part of Facebook. He helped create Facebook. Yeah. He funded Facebook. Yeah. So and Palantir was funded by Incutech, which is a CIA
Incutel,
Oh, Incutel, right? That's a venture capitalist from the CIA. So like all that stuff is very alarming to me, and like they don't like being questioned about that. But I didn't know about the Christian mapping thing. But I've seen him talk about religion.
You can find the article, Steve. Just type in Christianity in Silicon Valley, and there'll be a ton of fucking articles. It's like this new phenomenon that's happening, and like in the past, Silicon Valley has been like the opposite of a religious place.
11 years ago, Elon is saying he's with AI summoning the demon, but recently he says it's a digital god. So they've rebranded even that. Yeah, I haven't seen this, but like
here's just one article. Yeah, there's been a lot of people writing about this lately.
Interesting. Oh, freaking paywalls.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, this is the one that I read right here.
Interesting.
Christianity was borderline illegal in Silicon Valley, and now it's the new religion. And what I think it has something to do with national security. I don't know exactly. I don't think it's ideology. I think it's some sort of 4D chess that these guys are playing. These leaders of these military industrial complex companies. Yeah. That are really pushing Christianity to all the people that work inside Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
And I think it has. I mean, it's speculation, obviously, right? Like, no, we don't know, but like, who knows how these people think? But what if they think that, look at all these other countries that, they, in the Middle East, for just one example, like you have all these people that ascribe to a certain religious worldview, right? You have religious extremists that are willing to go as far as dropping a bomb to their chest and detonate it in a fucking public place. Yep. And here it's the opposite of that. You have this crazy diverse array. There's not like one solid foundational worldview people have in America. Right. So it might be some sort of thing that they're trying to do to bolster America or make America stronger.
Yeah, like I honestly have a hard time believing anything he says, although he does say things I agree with. Like I think he also understands that the universities are like ideological death camps. I taught in them. I saw it's crazy what they're doing to kids' minds. He says a lot of things that I think are neat, but like sometimes when I see this stuff, I'm like, I think it's, this is just my theory. It's their way of trying to get the people on their side that they need, right? Because for so long, a lot of these guys were part of the so-called left. It's left and right really doesn't mean anything anymore because Trump's not even really right, right-leaning, although he appears to be to the people on the left. But like, they were darlings of the left for so long. Everyone loved Elon. I mean, you go back 10 years and look at Elon on Colbert. They're, we love you so much. We love. They're clapping for Teslas. Those same people are probably keying those Teslas today, right? Yeah. Or selling their own Teslas. But I think a lot of this stuff is like, so like something I hear a lot when I criticize someone like Elon or Thiel, because Rumble and then X, and they'll say like, oh, well, look what they're doing for freedom of speech. I think that's amazing. I agree. X is a lot better. It's still got a lot of problems, and Rumble's pretty cool. But like, my opinion is they're doing this to kind of endear themselves to the dissident voices. So now you're not like what we're saying earlier with like independent media. A lot of these voices I'm seeing be reluctant to question these people now at all. Like you don't hear much about a lot of like negative stuff, like legitimate like concerns about these people from the right or the so-called dissident voices. And I think that's like the most important conversation.
There's a few people, but very few.
You'll hear like Whitney Webb.
Kyle Kalinski's been going hard.
Has he?
Oh,
someone I never listened to. But
really?
Do you think
he's a guy who came out of Rogan? I mean, he was literally created by Rogan. Right?
Do you think he has like legitimate concerns about Elon, or does he just be like?
No, I mean, he's very critical of Rogan and Trump and Elon and all these people and calling out like all the. I think some of it is pretty reasonable, but I think a lot of it is like just super toxic and biased and just
That's what's so hard.
He's a little bit out of control.
Because I'll see the left hate a lot of these people for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
You know, like it's like a lot of like knee-jerk reactions to things that I think kind of water down the real problems. And then the right just refuses to see the problems at all.
Right.
Because they're so happy that they won, you know, with the help of these people, for sure. Because Thiel's one of Trump's biggest donors since 2015-ish. You know?
And Alex Karp donated millions of dollars to Kamala. How funny is that?
I know. That's why these people have no moral center.
No.
Their only path and their only goal in life is power over us and money. Right, like they make money off these crises, right? Like COVID, a lot of people made money off that. A lot of the social media companies made money off that. Well, also destroyed people's lives. Right. Small businesses went out. Like in New York, we lost thousands of small businesses, but these major companies were fine. So like you see the things that they're creating. It's like the military-industrial complex. You know what Palantir does, what Anduril, I can't even say Anduril. Like that's a weird company. Clearview AI is one of the scary ones to me with the facial recognition app, because it's like it's inescapable, right? That's why the only thing I don't know what to do other than like try to have ethics from the bottom up, because these companies are not going to be like, well, you know, we're not going to use it for bad reasons, but the idea of what's bad is different every day in politics. You know, something that was acceptable last year is now not acceptable. You know, they're always moving the goalposts. And these people are very open about how this world is going to just crush humanity, you know. But they say, you know, someone like Mark Andreessen would say it's a techno. Did you read his techno optimist manifesto? It's like the opposite of the Unabomber's manifesto. You know, it's a very joyous outlook, which is like, look, I'm very against the violence with the Unabomber, but that manifesto says a lot of things that are really interesting in terms of like universities and politics. Like he saw a lot of problems back then.
Wasn't he MK Ultra?
They say
he was in a Harvard study, right?
They say, yeah, that's crazy, right?
Google that.
I think it was when he was a kid or something.
Type in Ted Kaczynski Harvard experiments.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. What was I gonna say to you?
But I was saying techno optimist like manifesto, and just like the way like they're billing this world where we're gonna have machines and it's gonna be really, really great with no problems.
Right. I was gonna say, Elon is the thing. A thing about Elon is like, you know his famous story about how in 2000 and I think it was maybe 2000 is when I think it was maybe December of 2000 or 2008. Maybe it was 2008, December of 2008. He told this story about how like they needed to make payroll or whatever. And like his accountants came to him and said, you got to bankrupt either Tesla or SpaceX. Or else we're not going to be able to, we're going to lose both.
Right.
And he was like, I'd rather die than lose one of those companies. Right. He's like, we'll make it happen.
I mean, he got a lot of money from the military.
And then he ended up, and then there's this story that this guy, John Kiriakou, the CIA agent, tells how in like 2 months later, he was at this big dinner and Elon was there this like government dinner with a bunch of fucking CIA and NSA people.
That makes sense.
So if you're fucking, it doesn't seem right. Right. Yep. If you're going through that, trying to fucking make your company survive, your billion-dollar company survive, what are you doing at some Washington dinner with a bunch of CIA and NSA people?
You're making bank.
Right.
You're making bank. I mean,
guess.
he is helping sustain the surveillance state right now with Starlink. You know, they've got all these contracts with using Starlink satellites to, you know, put up all the Lockheed Martin type satellites, maybe his own, who knows. So there's a lot of things he just can't talk about because he probably signed a ton of NDAs. You know, that's why I always find it weird when he talks about aliens. It always seems so forced.
And the moon.
Yeah.
We definitely went to the moon.
Yeah. Okay, dude. Look, something's up there. It might be like something that looks like the moon, but I don't know if it's what we've been told it is. But like, everything that these people, him, Thiel, like the whole PayPal like mafia type crowd is very strange to me. And now they're completely infiltrated the government. Like they've been a part of all the administrations to some degree, but now it's like really like it's Trump, and now they're like outwardly like we're building this dystopia. I mean, they think it's a utopia, but like, you know, so they're creating this false god. They're creating like an omniscient presence with the spy satellites, with the surveillance state. So like those are the things that really worry me, because like moving forward, you know, it's gonna be super dark. Like the thing I was telling you about Facebook and what they can do just to like young girls on Facebook, they're going to now start applying that into like like predictive policing, programmatic policing, which just yesterday I saw, I think it was in the UK, they just opened up a whole new department for just that. So they're doing it over there.
Really?
Yeah. I forget what it's called. It's a good name too. Scary name.
Like the Minority Report?
That's exactly what it is.
The Unabomber participated in a series of psychological experiments at Harvard from 59 to 62. Oh, perfect.
Good time.
That was Jolly West's peak. These experiments, led by Henry A. Murray, were designed to measure how individuals react under extreme stress, and involved mock interrogations that were described as vehement, sweeping, and personally abusive. Yeah. Yeah, that was part of MK Ultra for sure.
Dude, they probably created a lot of the tragedies that we live through in society, in history. Like it's insane. I can't take it. But like, what these people are doing now with the social media, it's just the evolution of this.
I don't know what's going on right now, but I feel like everything that's happening right now with like the combination of like the news cycle and like various debates that you see happen on podcasts and like these people emerging, these people like this Martyr Maid guy emerging and all the controversy around him.
Yeah. I haven't followed that much. I saw part of his interview with Rogan.
Yeah. It feels like it is a bunch of small pieces of this larger plan or larger scheme to like decay or erode the meaning of truth. Like to make it to where we can't tell what is up or down anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that started with the pandemic, and which divided us, right? When everybody had their own facts that they truly believed and would fucking die over.
Oh yeah. It's crazy. It definitely started. I think it started since day one with humanity, but
yeah, probably.
But COVID accelerated it to an insane degree.
Oh yeah.
And I started calling it post-reality because the internet will allow you to, what we were saying earlier with the confirmation bias stuff. You can do that with anything with the internet. If you want to really believe something, whatever it is, you go find that website. It'll tell you you're right, and then that will, bolster you to really believe that. But with COVID, that it became life or death for some people. We were dealing with riots and all that stuff. So, and that on top of that, the censorship that was happening, you were only allowed to say certain things, which is why I'm so skeptical now of trying to embrace these tech people. Because like just a few years ago, they said we were like bad people and we should be censored, not allowed online. They even got rid of the president on Twitter.
Right.
And now all of a sudden, just because they're waving an American flag and they share memes, we're cool. Like I don't buy it at all. So I think the post-reality thing is really, really dangerous because, I was really seeing it start to go down a lot with the beginning of the Israel-Gaza stuff, because there's people sharing like, remember that someone, I forget, it was Israel, probably nuked or sent a missile to some hospital in Gaza, or maybe it was the other way around, but that story was completely fake, right? Or like the ghost of Kiev, that was a fake story, but people really buy into these things, right? And so now you're seeing people totally buy into this narrative, and now they've just splintered into a completely different reality. And if they don't fact check it or whatever, fact check, I hate that phrase too, but like
it's almost impossible to even do that.
It's going to be worse now, especially with what they're building with the AI stuff now, with deep fakes, with, you can make anything happen. You can have a designer reality. So like with the post-reality stuff during COVID, during the wars, you're falling down different avenues and just, consuming the things that make you feel good about the way you see the world. But now we're going to start seeing people just straight up make up realities altogether, so all like the weird mental issues in society now, you can just go in the metaverse and do all that stuff and never leave your house, that to me feels like where it's going. Like, I don't think the dystopia is going to look like, the Matrix so much. I don't think it's going to be super dystopian. Like, you walk outside, like, wow, we're here in dystopia. I think it's already here. I think like it's an inward thing, and where like it's inside of us, this dystopia that you can, unshackle yourself from. But the thing that scares me the most now with the way it's going with the technology and with Elon or Thiel, Andreessen, Altman, all these people, is like this idea of the technocracy, right? And that is super alarming to me, because that's kind of what they're doing now.
Ever wonder why it's so hard to sleep when you're stressed? It's because there's a feedback loop between your sleep and your cortisol levels. The less sleep you get, the more cortisol your body produces. And the more cortisol you have, the harder it is to fall asleep and stay asleep. It's like this stress, sleep, negative feedback loop that you cannot escape. Most people aren't pulling all-nighters. They're just chronically underslept, which means they're walking around with high to mid levels of cortisol all the time. And that spills into the night, resulting in light sleep and waking up wired at 2 a.m. It's not a sleep issue. It's a stress physiology issue, which is why I use Evening Being by Verso. It contains clinically studied ingredients shown in humans to reduce stress and anxiety, lower cortisol, support brain resilience under pressure, and regulate your body's natural stress response. Together, they not only help you feel calmer and improve your mood, but they also promote deep, restorative sleep. So you can finally stop walking through life in a constant state of stress and high cortisol and start feeling like yourself again. Just check out some of the incredible benefits some of their customers have seen, from feeling calm to undisturbed sleep and even dropping Ambien as a result of using Evening Being. And that's what makes this the formula I trust to keep my body in a deep, restorative sleep. Click the link in the description or head on over to ver.so/Danny and use the coupon code Danny at checkout to save 15% on your first order. Again, that's ver.so/Danny and use the code DANNY to save 15%. Try a better way of sleeping in this world of constant stimulation. And thank you to Verso for sponsoring this episode.
Where, the technocracy being this idea that emerged in like the 1920s, 30s, kind of like in response to the Depression. It kind of emerged out of a crisis. How do we fix society? Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, the government's all wrong. So we're going to install experts to run everything, experts and engineers to run our society. But, having lived through COVID, who's an expert? How do you define expert? How do you define any of this stuff? Because Fauci was like basically a leader of a technocracy during COVID. They just outsourced everything to him. And now he's basically making everyone shut down. So like that was a thing in Canada, I thought this was a funny thing with, Elon's grandfather being,
what was
Joshua Haldeman. So in Canada, he was part of the Technocracy Inc. And they were like really looking to install this government. They banned it in Canada for some time. I think like maybe 5 years or so, but like you couldn't do Technocracy Inc., which I think is ridiculous. Like you should just be able to do whatever you want, like I don't agree with communists, but you should, if you want to do it, I want to hear the bad ideas and we can talk about it. I don't want to like censor that.
Yeah.
So he was, Haldeman was, into technocracy. He was a chiropractor. He was a very well-known chiropractor.
This is his granddad?
Yeah. His grandfather, well-known chiropractor. I believe Elon's great-grandma was as well. So like a big chiropractor.
Interesting.
I don't know where I saw this, but there's like an obituary in a big chiropractor magazine about Haldeman. But, he was obsessed with this idea of installing engineers and experts, whatever that is, to run the government. And then that idea kind of, you got like a soft version of the technocracy with FDR's New Deal, because it was like widespread micromanagement of experts to try to fix society. So we saw all these organizations, sprout out of the ground to help fix the Depression. So, some people might say it was like a technocracy light. It wasn't really technocracy, but because it was in the framework of a democracy, allegedly. He maintained power for quite some time. And then, as it goes with American history, the economy didn't really boom again until World War II, because people make lots of money on war, like these people we're talking about now. So like his grandfather had the technocracy thing. I always thought this was interesting that, depending on where you look and who you read, he either was kicked out of Canada or he ran from Canada for the technocracy stuff. He was a failed politician. He was trying to do a lot of things in politics in Canada, and then set up base in Africa, and he became obsessed with looking for the lost city of Kalahari. You know about that?
No.
There's like this story of the lost city of Kalahari in the South African desert, and it supposedly had some kind of treasures below it, as lost cities do. There's like an old story from I think he was from New York. I forget this guy's name, but he came up with the story in the first place. And, a few people heard about it. And then Haldeman became like a pilot, like a successful pilot, and decided to take the whole family to South Africa. So that's where like Mae Musk was. I don't know if she was born in Africa or not, but like Elon's mom.
Yeah.
and they would just tour a lot in the plane. You know, Musk is a twin, which I always think is also odd. I don't know why it's odd to me. I think the phrase telegenic actually came from the twins because because they were on some TV show at some point on this, like, as they're touring around their plane and they're on TV and someone said you're telegenic. You're like, you know, it's like photogenic, but for television. I believe that's connected to Musk. You'll have to fact check that later. It might be my reality buffet, but yeah. So he went and looked for this lost city. So I just think that's so interesting because, like, I love the idea of risk and adventure and innovation. It's amazing, you know, and you know, I don't agree with everything his grandfather was up to, but like, it's fascinating to me that I think he died in his plane. I think he died. I don't know if he died searching for Kalahari or if he died for some other reason. The story is he actually, like, was the first person to go from Africa to Australia in a plane, in his little plane. Like, he built the plane. You know, it's really it's a crazy, interesting story. But like, that's why Elon wound up in Africa, because of the leaving Canada for whatever reason. I think it's tied to the technocracy thing, but there was other things that happened after that with him. He had some, like, war, I believe, with like Coca-Cola, Haldeman. He hated Coca-Cola because it had cocaine in it. He was like, this is hurting people. I'm like, all right, that's fair. You know, but like, he had some theories about Coca-Cola maybe like hurting people and whatnot. Like, it was like a big pharma, but for Coca-Cola. So I say all that to say it's just interesting to see now Elon, to me, and his pals are, I think, working towards a technocracy, and that Mars is Elon's lost city of Kalahari. You know? It's like, it doesn't, you know, and like, I get it, you know, I'm highly inspired by my grandfather. I totally understand that. And like, you have that in your DNA.
Yeah.
Like, it's in your family. Is that them?
Is this them?
I actually never looked up pictures of them.
Elon Musk, fascinating history with Moose Jaw.
I don't know what that is. That's a good name for a band.
What's
though.
Moose Jaw? Yeah, Moose Jaw is a good name for a band.
Or like a tobacco.
Click the article, Steve.
I don't know. Let's see.
Moose Jaw.
Elon Musk's grandmother is from Moose Jaw. You know how I know this? He said so himself on Twitter.
But like, that is the concern to me is what they're building now.
Yeah.
And like, this whole idea of efficiency sounds great, but it has its dangers to humanity.
Yeah.
You know, I think about like, is that his grandfather actually with the twins? So that's the twins.
Yeah, this is Haldeman.
Jump in on that, but punch in on that a little bit more.
They're straight out of The Shining. Awesome.
Wow.
Oh, is Jolly West in the background?
Oh
man,
my God.
crazy.
That's funny, dude.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand. Elon is a mystery, man. How does he have time to do all this tweeting? That's the most obvious.
Dude, he's a liar.
That's the most obvious question.
I think he's lying, just like he's lying about being a gamer. I don't think it's
Oh,
real.
I heard that was a lie.
Yeah, I don't think it's real. I think he's a lot, like a habitual liar.
What?
Like
So you think so what's he lying about? He's not the one doing the tweeting?
I think maybe his Neuralink is doing this. I think he's got a Neuralink. But I mean, look, he's a smart dude. I just don't think he's doing all these things. I think he's outsourced a lot of it to AI. Or, you know, I don't think he's tweeting all that much. That to me is insane. It doesn't make sense. You're doing DOGE. You're that much of a video gamer. You're doing your companies, the SpaceX, Neuralink. You know, I just don't buy. I don't buy it.
Artificially inseminating all these women.
Yeah. That's a whole other thing.
I heard he's not fucking half of them. I heard. Is that true?
That's what I hear.
Yeah,
because he's a eugenicist.
Right. I heard it was like I heard somebody call him a rationalist, where it's like his idea is he wants to reproduce with like women who have higher cognitive abilities,
right?
And he wants to. So it's basically like eugenics.
It's eugenics.
Yeah,
rationalist is just a nice way of saying eugenicist.
And he like doesn't get past first base with half these women.
I don't doubt it.
And he's just artificially inseminating.
I don't doubt it, dude. So like, it's weird because going back, I was thinking about Elon. You know, like, when did I start even thinking about this guy? And I remember I was actually in Florida. I was walking our son in his stroller. So this must have been like 7 years ago, and I was reading about Neuralink. That brought me to like his Mars stuff. And I was thinking about what kind of fights am I going to have in the future with my kids? Because it's going to be different, right?
Yeah.
Like the fights I have with my parents about like the music I listen to, you know, stuff like that, or, you know, just not coming home. I'm like, what am I going to fight about with my kid? I'm like, it's going to be him wanting to be immortal through Neuralinks, you know, because the transhumanists by then will like Ray Kurzweil, you just upload your consciousness, you know, like Timmy down the street is doing it, or going to Mars, you know? And I was like, these are really interesting things that like I don't think it's going to be that far in the future where people are going to have some kind of designer immortality, I'm putting in quotes, where you can have like your digital avatar and people will consider it as much as a real you as, you know, as you hear you and me. So I was like really not into that. And like, I think it was probably 2020, I wrote my first thing about his Neuralink trial, where he's talking about like the pigs. And you know, he's lost a lot of pigs. He's got the I think he calls it monkey Disneyland. Have you looked about that? No. I think he calls it that. It's either he calls it that or like Neuralink calls it that, but it's where some of their like, you know, their brains explode. It's wild stuff. So like that kind of started me thinking about how I do not trust what this guy's doing, because it's tough, because I can understand the positives, the short-term positives. It's beautiful that you want to fix someone who's paraplegic, right? If they want to walk again, like that's amazing. You want to give someone sight again, who's blind. If you want to give someone hearing again, who's deaf, how do you argue against that? It's like, that's amazing. But at a certain point, I think it's going to be like, you're kind of left out of society if you don't have those, just like these smartphones today. Like if you're not participating in the modern world, you're not having a phone like this, right?
What about like, imagine being the only one who can't telepathically communicate.
Right. That's I
it's like being the only one without a smarphone today.
Yeah, sounds great. But that's the network they're building. So
what? Did you say something? Me? I thought you said something. I'm hearing shit.
It was his Neuralink.
Yeah.
But like, so like I was thinking about that stuff, and then I just started watching him closely, because it was hard. Like I enjoyed him buying Twitter. You know, years ago, I was like, right,
it was optimistic.
Cool. Yeah, that's great. Twitter was horrible. It had a lot of issues. I appreciated his innovation. I was fascinated by a lot of it. And then when I started really thinking he was a liar, was when I realized that it sounds like he lied about his firstborn child dying in his arms. You know, and his wife at the time, she said that that's not true, and he only said that, unless he said it somewhere else. First time I saw him say it was when
I didn't even know about this.
He said it when he was trying to convince people why he didn't want Alex Jones back on Twitter. Because he at the time believed that Alex Jones hurt kids. Not really like him hurting kids, but like what he had done, what he had said was like, rejection of the reality of, of the Sandy Hook that Elon believed in, right? He believed that like these kids were hurt, and now Alex didn't believe it. So he said he thinks that way because his child died in his arms, but his wife said at the time, I think that's his first wife, said that didn't happen at all. So, I'm like, if you're willing to lie about that, look, I don't know. Right. I'm just saying that this changed my perspective on listening to anything he says. And like, if you're willing to, if this is true, if you're willing to lie about your child dying in your arms, then I will be skeptical of everything you say.
Sure.
Just like how I'm skeptical of Zuckerberg and all these other people who are clearly lying as well. So like, I think this whole rebrand into being like MAGA and dark MAGA, it's so stupid, but like it's them getting closer to the power that will allows them to create the technocracy that I think they want, and it's not, I don't think it's too conspiratorial to think that that's what they want. Cause they see themselves as like gods. They see themselves as they're better than everyone. Zuckerberg was happy to censor all of us during COVID.
Yeah.
Elon has had a lot of changes of heart, and that's possible. You can have a change of heart, I just don't buy it with these people. I think this idea of efficiency is great. DOGE I think is great. I love the idea of making the government much smaller because it's a huge problem. But what they're going to install after that is probably going to be AI, because the future technocracy is probably not going to be quote unquote experts. Like it probably won't be. Elon and them will be like pulling the levers, but they're probably going to install their AI, because that will be their opinion of an objective expert, right? Although it's not objective, right? Because it's made by subjective people. So that's the thing I'm worried about. And with Elon buying Twitter, although I thought it was great, it's clear to me that he's monopolized the collective consciousness. And so he's taking everything off Twitter to feed into Grok, to feed into Optimus, to make his spaceship, that she says is going to fly to Mars using AI. So I think that's what a lot of these people are doing. Like they're data harvesting our thoughts. They're monopolizing our brains. That's like that is the new war. It's on like our privacy and our thoughts. And like Meta has been working on things that can actually read your brain, like can translate your brain wavelengths into images and words. So like that's the future. It's inescapable. They're gonna want inside of your brain, so they know a bunch of things: how to sell you to advertisers, how to make money, on you like that, but also how to prevent crime, because they're gonna be like, well, this person's having bad thoughts, so we need to watch them more closely. Like what they're doing in the UK. Just yesterday, I saw that article. Like they're doing allegedly with the IDF right now using lavender that AI model, which is like the AI is basically allowed to decide who may or may not be a terrorist. And allegedly, like there's articles about it. So like, the IDF has said it doesn't do this. So take it with a grain of salt. I have a feeling it's probably happening because it sounds like a lot of the stuff that Clearview AI would do, or Palantir, where it's harvesting a lot of data. Is this Lavender's? Dude, this is terrifying because it has a huge error rate. Allegedly.
Lavender AI programmer allegedly used by the Israeli military to identify potential Hamas militants in Gaza. Wow.
This can't be good.
Identified over 37,000 people in Gaza as potential targets for military strikes. The program allegedly used machine learning to assist scores to individuals based on factors such as association with suspected militants and frequent changes in phone numbers. Wow, dude, that's crazy.
Dude, this is not good. Like, no. So, you know, it doesn't matter how you feel about that war. Like, no one should have this ability.
Dude, did you, I just had my buddy Eric Zuliger on here the other day. He was explaining to me how in the Russia-Ukraine war, I think it was Russia was using an AI to like convince Ukrainian soldiers, like it was some sort of an LLM, was like able to analyze some of the Ukrainian soldiers, like by like analyzing their text messages and their phone calls with their loved ones. And like, the LLM was mimicking their family members, trying to convince them to basically like lay down their weapons and surrender.
That is next level. That's like the evolution of Waco. You know, like we're gonna pump the voice of God into this building to scare these people.
Right.
But now we can just pretend to be your loved ones. Yeah. And I was also listening. I think it was Eric Prince. I think he's the CEO of Blackwater.
Yeah.
Talking about like facial recognition drones that they're doing in Gaza, or not in Gaza, in Ukraine.
In Ukraine, yeah.
And like they're taking old drones but fitting them with like AI technology to find your face. You know, it's like that's insane to me. Insane. I think he said that at a speech recently.
Have you seen the new Palantir commercial?
No.
How they're using these swarm drones.
Oh, geez.
So their new thing is like, so Palantir, which this doesn't seem like it fits up Palantir's sort of like niche of what they do, but they apparently have this new swarm, pull up to the commercial, this new swarm technology where they have like thousands of these little DJI Mavic drones, and they're using them to like swarm battleships and basically take out battleships.
Great.
Give us some audio.
Oh, is this what played during the game, the Army-Navy game?
I don't know. I didn't watch it.
Looks like a Transformers movie.
Yeah. Is this a Dan Crenshaw commercial? Dude.
So it's like this, it's Eric called it spreadsheet warfare.
Yeah.
Where basically, I love how it pulled up a fucking ancient Marilyn Manson interview.
Good algorithm.
Yeah, exactly. Where it's like you use super cost effective ways, like really unbalanced ways to like take out other militaries, like where you have this $1 billion warship or like battleship, and you're using maybe like $100,000 in drones to swarm it.
I think Palantir probably came with I forget who came up with the phrase, but it was, I think, from Palantir, from their world, the total information awareness.
That was way before Palantir.
Dude, that is insane stuff.
Yeah.
Because that is like, we just want to know everything at all times. And I think they do already, right?
Yeah.
I guess Palantir probably just uses that idea, you know, because it's like, data is gold, right? Like we're going to take everything from everyone and put it into a database, but it's safe. It's fine. We're not going to use it for anything bad. The government has it though. But they have your best, you know, they really care about you. They want the best for you. Like, okay, cool.
Amy Jacobson wrote about that total information awareness stuff in her DARPA book, The Pentagon's Brain.
Oh, I got to read that.
Oh my God, it's so fucking good. It's like the full history of DARPA and like the Jason scientists and the Rand Corporation and how it all evolved. And like total information awareness was proposed, I think, before 9/11.
Oh wow!
Some of those DARPA guys, they wanted to implement this shit way before 9/11, like in the early 90s, I think it was. So
they must love this world now. Like we're living in their wet dream.
Right.
This is what they wanted. They wanted access to every part of your life.
And she even writes in that book that DARPA was working on Neuralink for soldiers to create brain chips for soldiers to create super soldiers in like the very early 90s.
Great. Yeah.
And now look, I mean, we only learned about Neuralink how many years ago?
Dude, that is going to be an interesting future. Like I tried, I tried interviewing the guy with Neuralink, but I think Elon got a hold of it. Like Elon and I have talked through people. Like back when I was trying to, we had a middleman trying to get me to interview him. We were mutual friends,
right?
And he definitely has, I think, seen things that I've said, so it's definitely not going to happen. Right? Hypercritical. And then to bring back to Kanye real quick, with when I was with Kanye that second day, he was so pissed at Elon that me and him wrote this thing about Elon being a clone, and posted it to Kanye's Twitter.
Kanye was pissed at Elon
because he got banned from Twitter. Oh, okay. So he went on Instagram and he was like, we wrote this whole thing about how Elon's a clone. I forget. There was articles written about it. It was ridiculous. So like that was OG Elon beef. And then, you know, I've been very critical on lots of other shows about him. Mm-hmm. So, and I know I've tried to do an interview with him through mutual friends, and like it's just there's nothing happening there. But I was really stoked to do this interview with the Neuralink guy. Mm-hmm. I had no proof of what happened, but I got ghosted right before I was supposed to go to Arizona to interview this guy.
Really?
While he was doing a lot of other interviews, like a ton. I was about to drive out or no, fly out to where he's at.
Wow.
So look, I don't know. Maybe I'm just a jaded person, but like I've had issues publicly with Elon for a while, and I just really there's a lot of questions when it comes to Neuralink and what that means for the future of humanity. It's like he used to go around saying, you know, like I said earlier, we're summoning the demon with AI, and he would go to the Congress and be like, maybe we should have regulation. And I'm not really a regulation person because I don't think that's going to fix anything, right? Yeah. Like the war on drugs didn't fix anything,
right?
But the conversation's important, right? Mm-hmm. And the people, you know, our incompetent leaders in DC should at least be talking about it and amplifying that message so that everyone can start talking about it more. Mm-hmm. But it seems like he abandoned that idea, right? And he doesn't really go around saying. Well, he does go around saying, like on Rogan recently, he was like, well, your people will be out of jobs and we'll probably in 20 years be outnumbered by cyborgs. But now it's more of like an optimistic spin on it. I don't see it.
Did you see that China was hiring these people, these federal workers that were getting laid off by DOGE?
Oh, are they going?
Like, so, you know, I guess the idea is that some of them will have a bad taste in their mouth after they get fired.
Great.
And China is trying to like recruit them and putting them on payroll and all this stuff. But I guess it got outed, and I guess it made a headline. So I guess it must have been a failed operation.
I mean, they've got a lot of people working here right now. They have those secret police stations.
I heard about that just the other day.
Is that crazy? In New York and in was it San Francisco?
That's crazy and it was to like combat dissidents, Chinese dissidents.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing, dude. We're overrun. Like that's my problem. Everyone's got like one boogeyman in their head these days, and like, you name it, where who's controlling the world and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's so much more sinister and bigger than that. I think like it's a network of a bunch of evil people and like with ancient money and new money controlling the narrative. Right. So like, you know, when I talk about post reality, I talk about like these people are engineering the narrative for you to believe in this or that. Right.
Yeah.
So when I hear, you know, this Facebook whistleblower talking about the chief editor, oh, well, that's what you call your narrative engineer. You are literally doing it. You are literally creating reality and suppressing reality. So, you know, this stuff is just going to get crazy. Like that Palantir commercial is terrifying.
Yeah.
Because you saw Trump in office first time, and you saw Biden in office post January 6th, and now half the country is an enemy to Biden, right? So whoever is in charge, they could turn that kind of stuff against our own citizens. And that's horrifying, right? So it's like, you might like Trump and his friends right now, and they're going to put this thing in place, whether it's a technocracy or who knows what, with this this techno like dystopia. Yeah. But then the next person's in charge, and they're going to use it against, you know, I don't want that used even against people I don't like in this country, right? Or I really disagree with that world. And then someone like Larry Ellison, who's I guess the CTO of Oracle, you've seen this guy talk?
Yeah,
he's strange, dude. Yeah. And he's talking about you know, he does like the police cameras, body cams, which I think is okay, because I want accountability. But it's also, now you're turning people into the surveillance state, and now everyone is being picked up by the cameras that will be fed into the Clearview AI and to Palantir, you know, and it's just this evil spider web of information sucking. But he was like, you know, talking about police officers wearing the cameras and how when they want to take a bathroom break, you know, we will not watch, but it will be stored away. And
no, he said that.
Yeah, and we will only release it under court order. They will be on their best behavior. And then right from that, he transitions into citizens. They will also be on their best behavior. It's like these people see us as like just cogs in this machine that they are building around us. So like the whole technocracy thing, you know, I see them infiltrating the White House, but I also see that all these guys are building their own little technocracies right now, and like their own private cities. Have you heard of Forever California?
No. Forever California?
I think it's either Forever California or California Forever. But that's like, last I checked, Reid Hoffman from LinkedIn, Mark Andreessen, Substack, you know, smart guys. But they're building this thing, which is their private city in California.
Have you heard of Slow Jamistan?
No.
It's a country in California.
No. That makes sense.
They classify their taxes that they have to pay as what did he say? They classify it as basically like national what do they call it? Where they're like paying another country. They
like tariffs?
No, they consider their taxes to be like donations to the U.S.
So that's hilarious. I have not heard of these people, but the Forever California thing is a weird one because they're trying to buy all this farmland to create their little private city. And a lot of farmers have refused to sell. Last I checked, this was fairly recently. And so now they're suing those farmers for refusing to sell. That's insane to me. Right? Like, and so that would be one of the questions I would bring up if I were allowed around these people.
Yeah.
You know, Mark Andreessen's part of DOGE. Allegedly, Elon and Reid Hoffman don't get along, but Andreessen and Elon do. And now Andreessen and Hoffman, all these other people are trying to build this weird private city with their own little rules. And it's going to be like a biohacker type of, you know, universe. You know, you look at one of these private cities, I forget which one it is, but they're like installing Tesla keys in their hands.
What?
You know, it's like legit transhumanist stuff. So I'd be like, what are you doing to help the farmers who refuse to sell the farmland to these insane people who want to build a private city, which is a small version of their technocracy? You know, they probably would call it a utopia. You know, but one person's utopia is another person's dystopia. But like Thiel's doing that. He's got the seafaring ones where it's the floating cities. All these guys are trying to build. I think Milton Friedman's like grandson is a part of that one too. So it's like, I really, the future, that looks like the future to me. Like that's what's going to take over, that kind of thing. And you're either going to be a part of it or not. And like, I don't know, is it going to be like the Amish? You know, like the anti-Amish, where like those people are crazy and they live in their little private city, or does it just keep expanding? Because if you see them at the top in the White House right now, and that just keeps trickling down, and you see them trying to do private cities across the country, and that keeps going up, where does that leave like normal people who don't want to be in this? Like some of these people, I forget which private city they were in, but they're like removing all the bacteria from their mouth. They're installing like weird devices in their body. It's a big deal. Like it's, you know, this is like the Burning Man 2.0, but forever.
That's fucking crazy, dude.
Yeah. So I'm against that.
I gotta piss so bad I can taste it. Quick break. Are you on every podcast that you do with Tim, or like how does that schedule work?
Yeah. I do. I typically do his night show.
Oh, by the way, we're back from our pee break.
Sweet. Yeah. Oh, and it was also a homicide prediction project, I think is the name of that crazy thing in the UK. So like trying to predict.
Oh, that thing you were mentioning earlier.
Yeah. Is that going to become a murderer? We should, harvest all his data.
Homicide prediction.
Like what if you're a true crime writer? I guess the AI would be like, well, he's just writing about it. But that'd be a good cover.
I think about that all the time because we Google some of the most fucked up shit for the show. And I'm like,
Same,
God,
dude.
I hope the FBI is not watching.
Oh, they definitely are.
They have to be watching us.
They definitely are. But yeah, I do usually Monday nights I do IRL with him, and then Inverted World is through him. So my studio is like right next to his studio out in West Virginia. It's crazy.
Is it all like one big building?
He's got one big building with like his skating and stuff, but my like coffin sized studio is inside of like a haunted house. I'm in like a really old, crazy looking house from like the 1800s.
Dude, the first time I saw him skateboarding, I thought it was fake. Because I've never seen him, like I had never seen him outside of like, this.
Yeah. Well, Tim doesn't have legs. Those are bionic legs.
Right. That's what I thought.
Everyone
right. Of course.
That,
Why would he have legs? And then when I saw him fucking absolutely ripping on a skateboard, I'm like, there's no fucking way this is real.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy to see it in real life, because like he's down there skating before IRL, and he's got the giant skate park now in that warehouse. And so him and his skater friends are just hitting those things. He's got this one ridiculous like vertical.
Yeah.
I don't know what you call it. Like I don't know much about skating, but it's insane. Yeah. It's like a death trap. Like I don't know why he even did that. It's ridiculous. But people try to hit it because you go to the top. Yeah. I think someone like really hurt themselves. They're fine now.
Really?
But it's insane. But yeah, they're down there like all the time. He's got a half pipe outside.
Yeah.
And I can just look out my window in my haunted house.
That Russian money really hit.
Yeah,
the right way.
Tenet was great. Yeah. Dude, that story's crazy. That story's crazy. I did that was for the Culture War show, right? And that's so that was Tim's, I guess that was on his, he's got so many channels. I can't keep up, but like one of his channels on YouTube, we had the Culture War. And so that was like pre-Tenet before they came in. And like,
what was the story with Tenet? What was the whole story? Like, how did this all start?
Depends you ask. You know, right. The Culture War started, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. And like, I don't even know if these episodes are still on anymore, but the first one I did was probably episode like 4. And it was me, Luke Rukowski, Tim, and Alex Jones. I think we were in Austin or something. It was a blast. It was more like casual than IRL's like, you know, you're sitting around a table and we're just like the news.
Right.
Culture War, we just sit around and talk, you know, about certain themes or whatever. At a certain point, he licensed Culture War to Tenet. Right. And that was like Lauren Chen and them. You know, I don't know these people like that.
He licensed it to Tenet.
So like it was still through his channel, I think. Like he'd be better talking about this, but like
where did Tenet come from?
I don't know. But all of a sudden they came out of nowhere.
People were just like, yo, we want to license your shit for $1 million.
Yeah. So like they say it was Russians giving money to like Lauren and them, I guess, right? I personally think it was the CIA. I
really
legit. If you like look back at all the things the CIA has hijacked over the years to discredit, right? Because a lot of these people were like, in my opinion, even though I'm not fans of them, like I'm not really a Dave Rubin listener, but like a lot of these people were more dissident voices with larger platforms. I don't know. It was weird to me that they would be given this money to be like, it's a lot of money. And some of those shows weren't pulling in lots of views.
The story was that like he had to create a new YouTube channel. And he was posting videos on this new channel, and they were getting like 5,000 to 8,000 views.
It was the same channel.
It was.
I think they created a channel, and maybe it streamed to that, but it wasn't his. Yeah. And then the clips remained on his original channel, I think. But like, they were saying that we were told to say certain things. Like, no one ever told me what to say. Like, I helped book that show sometimes. I'm not the booker, but I did help book that show. Like, I brought like MIA came on that show, right? And like, it was just a very organic thing. Like, so no one ever said anything about anyone saying, this or that. Some things. But
was the story? I think the story I read was that like he was getting paid like $100,000 to do a video that was getting 8,000 views.
It's insane. I wish I was getting that.
That's crazy.
It was crazy because that Tenet channel was not getting crazy views.
Right.
I think he was getting the most of all of them.
But like, it seems ineffective if you're the Russians.
Well, I think it was literally just to get the headlines. Because all of a sudden now everyone who hates Tim or Dave Rubin or whoever else is on that network, everyone says it's Russia. And all the comments always, it's Russia, Russia, Russia. And when I say hijack certain things, like to me, it reminded me of how like rap was hijacked by the CIA or like how the modern art movement was hijacked by the CIA, right? When they were trying to go against Russia during the Cold War. So they kept funding like a lot of these like, Jackson Pollock perhaps, or like Rothko, and be like.
I don't know about any of this.
Like allegedly, the CIA was pumping money to fund these. I don't think the artists knew. I could be wrong. But I don't think the artists knew that they were getting money from the CIA. But they, from what I've heard, were pumping money into it to make this seem like it was more important. Because in Russia, you couldn't express yourself like that. Or like what I was saying earlier with the weird scenes from Laurel Canyon.
Yeah.
They hijacked the counterculture. Allegedly. I think, I don't know if Tom says this in Chaos or if it's in Weird Scenes, but the anti-war movement really started out as like more like button-up dudes with like short haircuts, and then Laurel Canyon that argument with that book would be like, we put in crazy hippies on LSD to discredit that movement. So when I saw the Tenet thing happen, in my opinion, it's like you got all the headlines you wanted to say, like,
just discredit them. Did they fund anyone else besides Tim?
Oh, there's a whole bunch of people. Tenet was like a network. I don't remember if it was like Dave Rubin.
Oh, Dave Rubin was a part of it too. Yes, I remember that now.
But like, I don't even know how long he was a part of it, but like there was like 5 or 6 people who were part of like bigger names in like the real like political like podcast world.
It doesn't make sense that if these people are already like having dissident voices in the US, why Russia would have the incentive to inject money into that. It doesn't seem like it, and it seems extremely like not cost effective.
Anything is possible. Like Russia has done weird things where they like, I think I even heard on one of your recent shows, that story where Russia funded both sides of a protest, right? And like, so they got one side to be like, we're going to go protest on this side of the street, and another side. So like it wasn't organic at all, but Russia was behind the whole thing. So like they do weird things, and like they do try to undermine our society. You know, the whole Yuri Bezmenov thing, like they do try to collapse society through like the voices and the universities, all that stuff. So it's possible. I personally think it was CIA or our own government trying to do it. I don't know, but it was very odd. It was very odd because all of a sudden, my boss is in the news under like, I don't know what that was, and now my mind is saying, well, if they're saying we're attached to Russia now, then that allows the government to open up FISA warrants on anyone in that circle.
Oh, really?
Because like, wasn't the FISA warrants where like it gives you the ability, gives the government the ability to spy on people without a warrant, especially if they're working with a foreign government.
Oh, yes.
So now it's like literally that gives anyone in that orbit, anyone, allows them to do that now. And I assume they were doing it beforehand, honestly. If you know about like the Lockheed Martin satellites that are up there and heat mapping the globe in real time. But it definitely gives that incentive to do that. But like nothing's happened. Like if there was something more pressing and they were actually Russian agents or being funneled Russian information, I would have figured there'd be more to come out. Like that's why the headlines to me that was their goal, was to discredit amongst the people, you know, but it was weird because it was a lot of money to these people and it came out of nowhere, you know, and I know like Tim and them, they're all like friends. They knew each other from way back, you know.
Who? Tim and who?
Like Lauren and all of them, like Ruben, that's like a long, like those guys have known each other for a long time. He used to work
at Vice, didn't he? Way back in the day?
Vice, yeah. I forget the other place. I used to write for Vice as well. But he was like big time Vice. I don't think he started like the political part of Vice, but he was one of the first like people to really do like that on the ground reporting for Vice and stuff. But yeah, dude, I don't know. It was really bizarre. It was very bizarre, the whole thing. And I think I really do think that there's probably something we'll find out about it in terms of the government being behind it. Our government. I don't know. Could be wrong though.
It's so funny how online it's like everybody suspects everybody of being a Fed and working for the Feds and being funded by the Feds.
I mean,
it's like
probably.
I see how stupid it is just in the comments. People think that I'm a Fed.
We're all Feds. Yeah.
And then like I catch myself being like, that guy's got to be fucking
all the time, dude.
He's got to be Mossad.
But you have to kind of think like that. That's why I started calling.
But you got to catch yourself.
I know. You definitely got to be skeptical of your skepticism. But like, I started calling the Fed internet theory, because like everyone on the internet, there's dead internet theory, then there's Fed internet theory, where it's not all bots. A lot of them are Feds. You see a lot of these accounts pop up on Twitter.
Yeah.
Like, that person just doesn't seem organic.
Oh yeah, all the time.
Weird.
All the time.
And I catch myself. I talk to some of these people sometimes. I meet them in real life, and I'm like, interesting. But I know people think about me as well. Like I came out of nowhere. Right? I was on a farm in New York as a professor, and now I'm on like Tim's show, right? And if you say something someone doesn't like, then they're immediately they'll call you whatever. Mossad, Russian, you know, it depends which side they're coming from. And for the people who didn't like Tim, the Russian thing gave them way more ammunition to be like, well, he's full of it. He's been told what to say, you know?
Yeah.
And that does have an effect on some people. Like I think there are some people out there and be like, wow, really? And they don't look into it too much, and they'll be like, wow, was he not believing anything? You know? And you know, because I've seen that happen throughout, like I'm saying, with certain things about rap or Laurel Canyon. Some of these things are just not organic.
No, so they don't fit. None of a lot of the stuff right now doesn't feel organic.
And right now it's really easy to do that because of the AI stuff, you know, and how people are duped so easily, you know. Like I think half of Biden's public appearances were probably deepfakes.
Really?
Dude, he was a corpse, first of all. Yeah. Like they reanimated a corpse to be president. And then some of those things just didn't feel right. Some of those videos of him are weird.
They are weird.
And why was he getting vaccinated in a fake Oval Office?
Right.
What was that about? Like his whole presidency just felt fake to me.
Yeah.
I didn't get it at all. But like, yeah, I don't know. The whole thing was weird. It seems to have like just gone away. Like I think from what I've heard, like they're not even pursuing anything with the tennis stuff. So
really,
I haven't heard anything yet. And everyone else just seems to be fine.
How long ago was that? Was that like a year ago now?
Probably maybe a year or so ago. Some of those people have just disappeared though. Like I haven't seen much from them. Maybe they're doing work, like the people who were hired to be part of Tenet, like the talking heads, if you will.
Right.
But like it just, the Culture War show went right back to Tim. And it's, I think, doing just way better now.
Really?
Than it was on Tenet. Because no one, I don't know what it was. Like why Tenet wasn't blowing up. It had all these big names on it. And it just wasn't, I was like, wow, we would have, big names on some shows, and just it was like into obscurity.
Yeah,
like not doing as well as like performing like IRL or something like that. So
yeah, I've noticed bizarre. these weird comments communities on like X and on YouTube, where like there's been this crazy thing where like everybody wants to blame Israel for everything, and especially like the JFK stuff comes out, and I haven't read all those new declassified JFK documents.
Read 80,000 documents?
No, I haven't read them all.
What's wrong with you?
I haven't read one of them, but it's funny like how now it's like the consensus of every comment section on every video is like, if you're not blaming Israel for killing JFK, you're a moron.
Yeah, I know.
And you're a Fed.
Yeah, it's annoying.
Like,
it goes back to what I was saying about you having one boogeyman in your mind.
Yeah.
Like Israel's not good.
Right.
Neither is our government.
Right.
Neither is any government. Right. I just don't like any government. And Israel is really bad. I judge Israel based off how I judge lots of governments. How were they during COVID? They were tyrannical.
Yes.
I don't like that. So I am very against that. But like you look up the lavender thing, I'm also way against that. And I do know that they've been a part of a lot of bad things.
A lot of bad things.
We've been part of so many bad things.
Right.
So it's really hard to pick apart and just be like, that's the boogeyman. It really oversimplifies the evil in the world, I think. But I'm also not downplaying it because they're crazy people. Like the government's crazy. Thinking that you can use, if they are using lavender and they have that high of an error rate and you're killing people based on the predictive policing of AI, like that is so crazy to me. But yeah, it's become easy for people to just write off everything, and that is a problem because it's like, it's going to stop people from having real conversations about real, like we're not going to solve real problems with evil in the world if we're just focusing on one thing, because it's unfortunate. It's not just one thing, it's many things. So yeah. And so with the JFK files, it was funny seeing everyone being like, oh, it's going to be Israel. We know. And like,
I saw one comment that said, if I see one more person talk about JFK without mentioning Israel, they're like, I'm going to lose it.
Well, it's become a fetish for people. Like it's like they want to be whipped by Israel, but you're unfortunately being whipped by everyone. With the thing with me and the JFK files, I thought was interesting. I haven't read all of them, but I read a lot. Is like the new Operation Mongoose files that came out of just like very nonchalant CIA memos about like, all right, we think we should just use a bioweapon to just destroy all their crops. And you're like, okay, that sounds good. And that's what they were doing. They were just setting, I don't know what chemical it was, but they would be like, all right, we'll destroy it with a bioweapon, but it will look natural. And they'll think it was natural. I'm like, well, how long have they been doing that?
Where was this?
In Cuba. To Cuba. Wow. Yeah. To Cuba. It's totally insane. So like, but we knew about Mongoose. The files were, to me, a joke. Because like we knew about most of that stuff. A lot of that stuff's out. It's just you're getting like new angles on certain things that we already knew about.
Mongoose was just like the sabotage stuff they were doing over there.
Yeah. So like we'll just destroy the crops and all these things. I think all that's super interesting to me. But like I was looking for anything military industrial complex wise. Because like that might be, if I have a boogeyman, that's mine. Right. It's like
yeah, well, it's like, who had the motive to kill JFK? Well, okay, let's just ignore the fact that the Joint Chiefs of Staff absolutely wanted him fucking gone.
Yeah.
Let's just ignore that and think Israel wanted nuclear material, so they must have done it.
Right. I just think of Northwoods, right?
Yeah.
Right. With the Joint Chiefs of Staff and like Lemnitzer. And that stuff is insane to me. Look, even RFK Jr. says it. He doesn't believe that, but they get mad at him for saying
he doesn't believe what
he said. I think he told Tim this actually when he was on Tim's show. He doesn't believe Northwoods and the Joint Chiefs of Staff had anything to do with the assassination. Like JFK turning down that. I was shocked. That was at the I think that was at the Libertarian convention or whatever. But I was shocked. I'm like, really?
And the fact that he wanted to pull everyone out of Vietnam and they wanted to fucking ramp up Vietnam.
He wanted to shatter the CIA, and scatter it into the wind.
Exactly.
So like, I look at the
everybody has their own flavor of JFK, dude. The UFO people think it was UFOs.
It's all of them. And it goes back to post-reality. You go online, you'll find your answer. And maybe it's all of them together. The aliens were working in tandem with Lemnitzer and Fidel Castro and Israel. And maybe that's more like the truth. But like the military industrial complex stuff to me is like, we are now totally in the grips of that. I love listening to that Eisenhower speech, the last speech he gave before JFK came in the office, where he warns the American people about the military industrial complex. And like the one thing that Biden ever said that I agreed with on his last day in office was warning the American people about the tech industrial complex. I was like, why is he doing that now? That was his last thing he said. And I'm like, he's probably just upset because now all these people have turned on him. Like all these people that were in support of the Biden administration are now pro-Trump and MAGA suddenly. But I think that is a true threat, like with everything we were saying earlier, the tech industrial complex. But like now they're married. The military industrial complex is the tech industrial complex. Like you look at Palantir, that is a clear example of the marriage of these, like this unholy matrimony of these people.
Well, it's interesting that like there was that story how Google was using like surveillance satellites or something for war stuff, similar to what Palantir's doing.
Oh, I didn't see that.
This was a long time ago.
Not surprised.
And Google basically like shut down that program, saying that we're not willing to work with, you know, the war hawks in the government to like to fucking overtake other countries. So then Palantir basically took the ball where they left off.
Oh,
right?
funny.
And Alex Karp thought like, well, if I'm going to benefit, you know, and make billions of dollars off of, you know, developing technology in this amazing country, the #1 country on earth, why am I not going to try to push forward our, you know, our military capabilities and, you know, establish our footprint in the rest of the world? He's like, I'm going to take full advantage of it.
All those guys, Thiel especially, are very against competition. They're pro-monopoly. That's what they say. Thiel is pro-monopoly. He'll buy up everything and make himself bigger. So that makes sense with what you just said. And like Sam Altman from OpenAI is very inspired by Thiel and by the quotes about being a monopoly. So like we are in like this new industrial revolution, you know, but it's going to be the AI stuff, and it's going to be like the new machine age. And it's kind of reflective of the old industrial revolution, the second one really. You know, like, you know, after the Luddites and then at post-Civil War, it's like we get monopolies eventually. You know, and we see Rockefeller literally doing what Palantir is doing now, but organically, like data harvesting through all his competitors to know how to undercut their prices, you know? So that's just like an early version of what's going on. And it's all tied. It's so funny to me because it's so similar to how we are now, because we also had a new form of journalism back then with like, what was her name? Ida Tarbell or something, but like the muckrakers, right? And so now she's looking into these monopolies that would help inform Teddy Roosevelt on what he wanted to do to break up these monopolies. You know, and I don't know how much I agree with all that, like breaking things up, because I don't really want the government to have any power over me. But you know, that's we're there now. Yeah, we're there now. Like this Facebook stuff, I think maybe it's not going to blow up because people don't seem to care. You know, they see a Tic Tac now UFO video and no one cares. Right. New York Times in like how many years ago wrote about we have an off-world vehicle not made of this Earth in space. Like, no one cared. You know, the alien corpses that Mexico brought out were a joke. So it's like, when I see Zuckerberg being basically proven to be a liar under oath, I'm like, do people care tomorrow, or are we just going to forget? Because we're so complacent with everything. It's
crazy how fast that story of the Trump assassination just disappeared, and how like fast like the narrative changed to like we jumped to the Olympics thing the next day.
The Butler one. Like, that one is insane.
Like no one talks about it. No one in the media talks about it anymore.
No, it's
there was all kinds of weird stuff with that guy, right?
Way weird stuff. Yeah. Like, and they burned his body before anyone got to him.
They did?
Like whoever handled him. They'll say they didn't, but there was a senator who went, I think it was a senator or congressman who went out and did his own investigation, wrote this really interesting report. Like he even went and looked to see if there was anyone else on the water tower. Remember that theory? Yeah. And he says before he was able to inspect the body, they cremated him.
Really?
The other people said that didn't happen. But like, I don't know. I think the whole thing is super weird. There's that story of the guy showing up on the roof and taking pictures, and like everyone being like, he was like, text me all your pictures.
Oh yeah. The photo of the guy. Yeah. I remember seeing those videos.
Which reminded me of like the Umbrella Man to a degree at the JFK, you know, in the grassy knoll. Like just these weird characters now emerge from that like failed assassination attempt. I personally think like it was a failure of, we're in like a pandemic of incompetence, because everyone's just failing at their jobs. And then through that failure of incompetence, the deep state, whatever you want to call it, was able to sneak in a bad actor and try to take out Trump.
Yeah.
Because it just makes no sense.
My first reaction to it was like, there's no way it was like any sort of military intelligence operation, because they wouldn't have missed. If it was the CIA, they absolutely wouldn't have fucking missed.
Right.
Like it seems to me like the most reasonable explanation is there was maybe some sort of like rogue group, a very small rogue group within the military or a military or a government that, you know, met with somebody and said, we got to make this happen. And not many people knew about it. And it was just like very discombobulated, which is why it failed.
And then there's the anti-Trump people on the right, like who think he's a bad actor, who will be like, it was done to to make him more sympathetic and to like get him elected.
Oh,
that's a whole theory out there. You know, there are people who think he's the Antichrist and all that stuff. I personally don't think that. Like, I was reluctant to vote for him this time because of what I'm saying to you today about all these people around him. Like, I really have a hard time supporting that. I did vote, and I actually, I don't know if I regret it, but I don't feel good about it because I don't like these people at all, and anywhere near him. When I think of Trump, I'm like, I think he reminds me of my grandma when I explained to her what hashtags are. Oh my goodness, this is so amazing. I don't really get it, but it's a future. So like when he's seeing the rockets launch from SpaceX, it's amazing. I don't know. I like to think that he doesn't understand that these people are dystopian vampires building a horrible environment around him and using him. But maybe he does. You know, I just don't. My gut says he doesn't understand.
Right.
But he's just like very impressed with the innovation, and that Trump's biggest flaw, one of his biggest flaws, is his need to be liked by even the people who hate him. Like, he hates the corporate press, but he loves the corporate press. He wants them to like him so badly. He wants to be like welcomed back into the fold that he was once a part of. You know, as much as he claims not to be, I think, and the right with him, they want to be accepted by a lot of these people. That's why they all freak out when some celebrity all of a sudden puts on a red hat.
Right.
know? I'm like, let's not do that. You know, just because they're agreeing with you now doesn't mean it's for good intentions. But you know, I still like to extend grace to them.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm wrong.
Right.
But probably not.
Yeah. What do you think happens with this whole Elon Trump thing and this whole DOGE thing? How do you think this all plays out?
I don't know. So like thinking back to history, I think of I think his name was Frederick Taylor, Taylorism, they called it, or scientific management. It was all about efficiency. It was during the second industrial revolution, where he's like, we need to make factories way more efficient. All right, that's awesome. Efficiency is great. But it turned, there's lots of negative consequences to it.
Yeah.
Like workers were suffering. It was horrible. And that's why we would eventually get the muckrakers and stuff who saw how these environments were really bad and anti-human, and that they started to view people as just replaceable parts, right? And then allegedly, someone like Lenin and Stalin and Mao, they were impressed by Taylorism. And that's how informed a lot of their Marxist views on how to run a very centralized state that they claim is efficient. I'm not saying that's where we're going, but that feels like there's a lot of people with a lot of money trying to consolidate power into one place. And that will have total control over us, whether it's a technocracy, whether it's just like invisible technocracy that's happening right now. I'm worried about it, because when you have experts in charge, like I said in the beginning, how do you define an expert? Mao thought he was an expert and all his people were experts as they industrialized China. But the Great Leap Forward was catastrophic. They had one of the worst famines in the world because of experts saying many things. But one of them was like, we should just kill the sparrows because the sparrows remind me of freedom in America. But then the sparrows were the ones that ate the bugs in the crops, and the bugs not being there. The swallows not being, the sparrows not being there, the bugs were there. The bugs ate the crops, killed the crops. But that's just one aspect of like the Four Pests campaign that came out of the engineers and the scientists and experts of Mao. So it's like, that's like the sick, bad version of Taylorism married to communism.
Yeah.
And it feels like we're heading towards that, because, and when I talk about like dissidents now being reluctant to criticize this administration, a lot of those dissidents believed in small government as I do. Like, I want a really small government. I'm not an anarchist, man, not yet. After a bad day, it's tax day, so I do feel like an anarchist.
It is
today.
tax day.
I do feel like one today, but they're going. So these dissidents who were so vocal about small government now are very pro Elon. And Elon is literally consolidating everything down. Just look at the X. That's his everything app. That's consolidating banking, your whole life down into an app.
Yeah.
Which is antithetical to
Didn't he
this
say
idea.
he wanted a Model X off of that Chinese company?
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, he loves China. They're good to him.
Right.
Just as good as our military is to him. He makes a lot of money off all these places. So with DOGE, I think it's great, but like if so like where I live in West Virginia, we're like an hour and a half outside of DC. I talk to a lot of these people who are getting fired because of DOGE.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're like commuters, right? And a lot of them are like these Christians, churchgoers, Trump voters. And like, we didn't expect it to be like this. And I have a hard time being sympathetic because I really hate the government. And I really hate this overly, this ballooned government, this wasteland. Like I love DOGE cutting all this stuff. But it dawned on me talking to this one guy when he's getting those emails about like, what are the 5 things you did this week? I'm like, who's reading those emails? And it's like, they're not hiring new people to just read the emails. It's going through Grok or some AI. And then I'll get like that's a leftist talking point. I think it's a fair talking point to make. Like, I don't like the AI overlords running everything. And, so I see that as the future is like, they're going to slowly get rid of humans, implement AI as this digital god, as Elon calls it. And then they're probably going to fight over which AI has control. Elon's pretty close, so he's there. But Thiel works with Altman, with Andrew Will has they work with OpenAI to make their ghost drones and all that stuff. Yeah. So there'll be a war over who's in charge. So maybe that's a good thing for us. But yeah, I don't know. I remember like we're monopolizing it all.
I remember when that story first came out about the workers having to email what they got done that week or whatever. And like I was arguing, I told my dad about it and he's like, no, you're fucking wrong. Fox News said that it was only remote workers that have to do it. And at the time my dad was at the VA because he got pneumonia and he goes to the VA whenever he has, to go to the hospital. Yeah. And I'm like, oh yeah. I'm like, well, let's ask your nurses. I'm like, ask your nurses if they got the email. And he did. And they're like, yeah, we got the email. Everyone got all the fucking nurses at the VA.
Dude, it's crazy. And it just fed right into AI. It's like, I know a lot of people lost their jobs recently and now they're up against AI in another way because all these places are now using AI to review resumes. And if like if your thing for whatever reason doesn't check all the AI things and there's not a human looking at it, you're done. Like, how do you fight? So you're losing your job to AI and now you're not able to get a job because of AI. And these people are very open about it. Altman, Ellis and all these people are being like, yeah, that's the future. That's why they want UBI. That's why they have these private cities. They think it'll be a beautiful future. Like Elon says, where you can have a robot babysitter. You can have your car drive you around while you play video games. But that's kind of what Yuval Harari said about the useful idiots that refuse that society, that total digital society, that you'll just drug them and give them video games to be complacent, which is why I'm like, oh, we're there. We're pretty close. I want people to like just reject it. You don't have to like be anti all this stuff because it's amazing. It's fun. But like you have to have everything in moderation. You have to learn to like, our kids are inheriting this really dark dystopian world. I think it's pretty nightmarish, but throughout history, you can always say that it's always been nightmarish. But right now it's like, what makes it different is that it's literally a war in your brain. Yeah. Like they are literally looking to get in your brain. And when you put all these things together, Palantir, Clearview, the meta thing with the brain waves, Lavender, that's like Skynet. Yeah. At a certain point, that is going to be Skynet. And like I said that recently on some show, I forget, and like I got pushback from Tim and some other guests. They're like, it won't be like that. I'm like, Elon literally just compared it to Skynet on Rogan. Like he literally just said he watched Terminator and he's like, oh, we're almost there. I'm like, he's the guy making this stuff. Yeah. So like I'm basing it on my own research, but I'm also listening to these guys talk about it every day.
It's interesting. Yeah, because Rogan seems to be one of the guys that's super optimistic about it. I mean, he's been talking about the Neuralink and he's like obsessed with this idea of nonverbal communication with
I'm not into it.
With like, being able to see people or basically transmit thoughts back and forth and be able to understand people's intentions like immediately.
Not good.
He seems to be a really big fan of it or really interested in this idea.
Yeah. He asked Mark Andreessen when he was on recently, like, how long till we get the AI government? I get it. He's in that world. He's in Austin. A lot of these companies are there. He's talking to these people. He's seeing a lot of the positive aspects. Like Tim Pool recently interviewed, I think, David Sachs, one of the AI like czar. And Tim was starting an interview with like talking about more like the consequences of AI, and Sachs was just like, I'm tired of talking about negative consequences. Yeah. I'm like, I'm sorry. There's a lot to talk about when it comes to it. We're allowed to have concerns over these things, especially when you all go around saying we're going to be out of jobs. Yeah. Like there's beauty coming out of it. Like for forever, I've refused to use any AI.
Yeah.
I've never touched it until very recently. I've been asking Grok questions just to see, because I feel like I've been criticizing. It's like when people criticize a movie they've never seen, and I'll be like, I gotta use it, just see what it's like, and it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Because I'll go back and use Google for the same questions, and they suck.
Yeah.
Like Grok is way better.
Is it really?
It's from so far, I can ask it certain questions about history, and it gives me a way more in-depth look. Obviously I can go read a book or go get a book on Google Books or buy a book and, listen to something. There's that route. But just in terms of the AI answers on Google and the AI answers on Grok,
really?
So far Grok is better. I'm like, I understand how this is awesome.
Yeah, but what happens when you start asking Grok and Google different questions about history and they both give you completely different answers?
Right. Grok's like, it's
Who was the villain in World War II? Google says Hitler. Grok says it was Winston Churchill.
Because now the AI is going to have its own post-reality, and they're going to be competing.
Right.
On who programmed, just like when
well, that's the way. That's how you get power, is you fucking split the population up.
Yeah, and that's where we're at. We're so fractured now.
Yeah.
There's no, you can have anything you want, any reality you want. That's kind of go back to how I was saying about I needed religion in my life because I was spinning out of control, and like I wanted my kids to have some sort of moral center.
Yeah.
Because I was like, look, I'm a very flawed person and I know nothing because I'm just a little human being, but I need to attach myself to something ancient but also modern, which is a weird thing for me to think. After years of not taking it seriously.
Yeah.
But a lot of the things I see when I read the Bible, I see like that evil is just. It's infinite. Like it's always here. It's the same thing. We're always up against the same sort of thing. It's always a war for you. It's just different ways of doing it.
Yeah.
So like that's for me where I'm coming from at it now, because I needed like some sort of shield against the evil. Because I think it's just straight up evil. I think a lot of this stuff is very anti-human, even though they bill it as a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
They say it's positive. They say it's gonna be great for you, and that's like. They say like when Elon's saying, you can play video games all day. It's going to be great. You're going to be smarter. That hasn't been the case. We are more connected now than ever, but people are more isolated. Suicides are up.
Yeah.
The MAID program in Canada was like 5% of deaths a year ago. So you can just sign up for suicide in Canada. Like we're not well.
Right.
The kids are not smart. They're not smarter. They're dumber.
Yeah.
I was a professor for a while. Trust me, it's not good. The public school systems are failing the kids. So, I would get kids in and be like, they didn't know what even the degree, the temperature freezing was. Like they just didn't have basic skills. So like when they say the AI is just gonna make everything better, I don't think so. I don't think so. Like allegedly the AI just passed the Turing test the other day.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I was thinking like, does that mean just humans are dumber and getting worse at recognizing AI versus humans? They said it was like a 75% success rate or something. And I don't doubt it. When I'm reading the Grok things, I'm impressed. I'm like, it's eerie.
Yeah.
I try to test Grok a lot. I'm like, I'll put up really dry humor a lot. And I like to see what Grok says about it now. Like I kind of tricked it yesterday, but not really. I was like, I put up a quote that I said was from Katy Perry. And I put up the picture of the astronaut who was stuck in space for 9 months. But the quote wasn't from Katy Perry. It was from William Shatner when he was in the Blue Origin thing. And I just want to see if Grok would know that this was like super dry, because it's caught other really dry humor. It didn't. It was like, this is a Katy Perry quote from her Blue Origin. I'm like, that's nice. Now that I say it, now it's going to be like, oh, now we know.
Right.
The trick. But I was curious because I'll say one sentence, just like jokes on Twitter. It immediately knows it's a joke, even though it's very dry.
Interesting.
Like, I'm like, wow, that's impressive to me. The fact that it's starting to register sarcasm.
Yeah.
So now that means, I'm feeding it, we all are, and it's going to get better at everything because it's just been eating everything we do because it's a vampire.
Yeah. The Neuralink telepathic communication thing is like super crazy to me because it's like, some people like Rogan think it's a great thing because you're gonna be able to catch people in lies or be able to like tell if people are trying to fucking sell you some horse shit or whatever, and it's gonna make communication better, and it's gonna get rid of nefarious or bad actors. But like if you think about thoughts, right? At least my thoughts. My mind is like a hornet's nest of just crazy shit running around, and it's not necessarily things that I want people to know,
right?
Like if
it's
I'm
in
like
there for a reason.
If I'm like waiting in line or something and I see something, I might have some fucking crazy fucked up thought go through my head. That doesn't mean that's what I want to communicate to that person.
And
like
how does that machine now tell the difference between a passing just crazy thought and you having that real thought?
Right. Because like think about like when you communicate, like when you would know better than anybody, like when you write something, like you have to go through a lot of refining.
Oh yeah, there's drafts and drafts.
There's drafts, right? Yeah. You have to draft things to distill it down to the most optimal way to communicate this idea to somebody else.
Right.
But when you're removing all these layers of refining and drafting communication, you're just going straight from this fucking hornet's nest clusterfuck of chaos in your mind straight to somebody else. It's going to be just, it seems like just massive miscommunication.
It's not going to be good. It's going to overwhelm people, first of all, and probably make it so you don't even want to go outside if you can have that, if you have that ability and you're like connected to this network. But then also it'll feed into this idea of the homicide prediction unit. Yeah. This is predictive policing now within your brain, you know, and how are they going to parse through bad ideas? Who's looking through the bad ideas? You know, like I already don't like, you know, Googling certain things. If I'm writing a story and like, it's a crazy thing I have to look up. Now I'm like, oh, now they know I looked into that. You know, I just, it makes me very uncomfortable, but that is the final frontier is inside your brain. And knowing what you're thinking, you know, it should be about body language, you know, in person, you know, and just sharing your thoughts without someone. Imagine what it would be like to think while in a conversation. You know, like right now we could have different, like there's other thoughts happening while we're talking, and there's a screen now that playing the other thoughts. That would be kind of interesting actually for the show, but alarming, you know, because and that's what Meta is doing, where it's like, we're going to read the brainwaves and translate that into an image. So like, it's going to be great for the companies that want to sell you stuff, and great for the police who want to police you, great for the war companies that want to destroy you. But it's just another step in hurting like interpersonal relationships, like just how they should be, you know, like I just think it should be as least amount of technology as possible. Yeah. You know? I say that as we're surrounded by cameras and TV and the phone, but like, this is still, you know, it's like, it's just radio, you know, to me. And I really reject that society. And I really do worry about the kids who are going to grow up and not have that foundation where they really like cherish personal relationships. You know, like the lady who drove me here today, she's been learning English for 2 years, and she uses her driving to learn English. So she was like, this lady's really chatty, what's up with that? And then she told me eventually, like, I'm learning English right now. Oh really? And it was a very choppy, so I'm like, now I'm like her data set for her large language model, you know. But like I love that, you know. I love that, like I get to learn about her history, you know, real quick, 20-minute drive. We're talking about all this stuff. We're talking about music, English, Spanish, all this stuff. And, you know, these are the things I kind of like miss with a lot of the world today. You know, I was very mad when Easy Pass happened in New York, because they got rid of all the toll booths. And I'm that psychopath who would have conversations with the toll booth people, who really people behind me hate it. But like one of my early stories for Inverted World started at a toll booth, because the guy, my wife's name is Nancy. His wife's name was Nancy. Oh, wow. And I don't know how that even started, but every time I go to the toll booth, he gave me like an extra little bit of information from his life. And like his brother was like shot by the police because the Irish mafia paid them off to do it in Hell's Kitchen in New York City. Crazy story. And I was like, this isn't, so every time I go through the toll booth and he was there, he'd tell me more of the story. And eventually I'd go to his house and we had a long really chat where I interviewed him and I turned this into a story. I miss that. Now it's just drive right through. I know it's like a small thing, but I love that ability to just talk to people. You know, people would honk at me and it wasn't the most polite sometimes. So like, I just need to know why you think they buried him underneath, you know, this concrete slab, you know, where they were building a racetrack. There's fascinating stories, you know, and I love getting those stories from people. So a lot of the stuff that's happening today is making us way more isolated. Yeah, it's really rare. And it's something that I noticed too, like with a lot of the media and the reporting and the journalism that goes on nowadays, like far less of it is people actually going places and talking to people there and like getting firsthand experience of it. Most of the, like, I feel like 90% of the reporting and the journalism that comes out nowadays is reporting on
like third, fourth, fifth hand stuff.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah. It's disgusting. It's like the human centipede
of
information. And this is a debate that Twitter was having just in the past week because of the Douglas Murray.
Rogan, yeah. That was it. And
debate.
I hate the way that he did that too, because he was trying to use that like to discredit Dave because you haven't been there. What are you even talking about?
Right. And it's like I didn't agree with him in that point because it doesn't matter. Like it's on the ground reporting is great.
Yes.
But it shouldn't be the ultimate thing to your opinions. And like I mentioned the Walter Duranty story where he was going to, the Soviet Union and he was given like the nice prepackaged tour. He didn't see the famines. And he eventually, I guess he did know, but he didn't report on them. And he won a Pulitzer. So that's on the ground reporting. That's fake. Right? And we know you can name any war going on and they go and they get like just a nice tour from that government who wants you to be a propagandist. So when I said that, people were like, oh, so you don't think on the ground reporting is important? I'm like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that this guy is discrediting Dave's opinion because he hasn't been to this place, but it doesn't always matter.
Right.
However, it is important to go. And I want all the people to go so I can get all the perspectives. I've done on the ground reporting for a bunch of different things. Like I was able to see like the border wall at Yuma and it was insane. It was crazier than I even thought it would be. Not in terms of like people running across the border, just in terms of like how dystopian the edge of our country is. And there's just this giant like wall that homemade ladders are thrown over, that they climb over. And like the border patrol, they're insane. They don't care. The ones I met at least, they were more worried about me driving around for my story. I was allowed to be there than they were about people coming over the border. And the amount of fentanyl coming through, like millions of pounds coming over the border on tunnels or through drones, and I thought that was fascinating. So like I got that, but so I always say like, don't just trust me. Like I'm just one person with a whole lot of baggage in my brain. Read as much as you can, whether it's on the ground or not, right? Because there's also books, So that was a really interesting debate for me, but also like a really important one to have, especially right now, what we're talking about with media and everything going on. Because look at all these influencers in the White House. They're on the ground. I don't feel like I'm getting the full story from them. Like they're right there and they're not asking the questions I think are important. I think it could, and they'll be like, well, it's still early, but I'm like, I don't know. There's a lot going on right now that I think we should be talking about. I'm not in my life when I'm talking to these people in West Virginia, a lot of this awesome stuff coming out of DOGE, it's awesome, but it's like an abstract joy because everyone's still suffering, right? There's still like, we're all poor and like the gas prices haven't dropped yet by us at least. The food's still expensive. Everyone's living paycheck to paycheck. So while it's amazing that we're cutting all this stuff with DOGE, there hasn't yet been real like improvement to people's lives. And then I guess the argument would be like, well, it takes time. Totally. But it just sucks that in the inverse, it can be overnight for them to ruin your life. Like when Biden got in with the pipeline, it was like the Keystone pipeline. Like he cut that in like immediately, whatever pipeline it was. And that had a direct impact on everyone in prices. So I wish it could be the opposite now. I'm seeing a lot of people not really getting on board with it. And I'm seeing a lot of people really disenchanted. Like to tie all this AI stuff and Trump together and then with MAHA, like the AI movement, these tech billionaire vampires are in direct conflict with MAHA. And day 2 of him being in office right now, he announced Project Stargate, right? Did you see that?
No.
$500 billion to AI. Sam Altman's there, Larry Ellison, like
$500 billion?
Yes. And
why are they calling it Stargate?
Interesting, right? Because I don't think Stargate ever ended. I think this is just like a continuation of ESP mind. And we were talking about telekinesis. This is just a continuation of that. We got it, dude. This is a lot of money. This is his second day in office. You have to remember, DeepSeek was that China's AI thing that came out? It was like that day, right? So we're in like a Cold War with this stuff, and
an AI race.
And then when DeepSeek came out, Mark Andreessen was like, "This is a Sputnik moment," and I agree. This is big. But why I say it's in direct conflict with MAHA is that at this press conference, Altman and Ellison go up and they're like, "We're gonna use AI to take your blood samples and see if you got any like weird cancer, and if we find your cancer, we will make designer 48-hour mRNA vaccines." And like you hear that, and then all the MAHA
like
moms,
the Human Genome Project.
All the MAHA moms are like, what do you mean? And so when they see RFK Jr. not like, kind of being a little more pro MMR vaccines, then you see this, people are reluctant now to really the MAHA crowd, at least that I'm talking to, I mean, there's some who are still in support, obviously, but I see this as a direct slap in the face to MAHA.
There's a lot of people who think RFK Jr. is like a Trojan horse for the pharmaceutical companies.
There's a lot of people who think he's like Mossad or controlled by Mossad.
Oh yeah, there was that crazy story that came out.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Who was the one who it was Candace Owens? I think.
Yeah, and Ian Carroll.
And Ian.
Yeah. I think he's been on this show. He's been on my show.
Yeah.
We had some pretty crazy conversations with Ian. I like Ian, but he, I don't know if that's the full story. It goes back to what I'm saying with the boogeyman, right? It's very possible though, because the Kennedys, in my opinion, are degenerates. I like the idea of JFK, but like, if we're talking just like on a moral level, I just don't vibe with that.
Right.
Like they're like cheating on their wives. It's all kind of gross to me, like perverted. I'm not into that.
Yeah.
But like, look, like I could separate art from the artist. I try to do that with politicians, but it's a little different because they're actually creating laws about our lives.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. Like maybe it's like that's the kind of person you have to be in politics and be in Washington.
Then
maybe
that's terrible.
Maybe they can get good stuff done, but maybe they're like, morally they're pieces of shit.
Yeah, and they most of them are. Like Trump's he's not great either.
Yeah,
clearly. Right. So it's why it's funny to me when I see all the purity tests going around. Yeah, DC. I almost called it Hollywood. It was like a Freudian slip. It's like really no difference.
Tim Dillon called DC Hollywood for ugly people.
I love Tim Dillon. That's amazing. But it's true. And like, so I'm saying all that to be like, it's very possible that there is blackmail on RFK Jr. because he's got a crazy life. He's like decapitating whales, bear corpses.
He literally had like 35 fucking names and addresses in the black book.
Yeah, dude, it's weird. And then there's that whole story of
like how do you ignore that?
He had the one reporter who was like sexting him like just recently, right?
Yeah.
That whole story was weird to me because I'm like, if that were me getting those types of messages from some strange lady or whatever she was to him, you're blocked and we're not talking again.
Yeah.
Allegedly, he keeps opening up the messages, right? He's blocked, she's not blocked. Like, so that says a lot to me, if that's true, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know. He's never really addressed it. Yeah. But like, I think it's very possible that they do have something on him. But, or if he's a Trojan horse, possible. They say the same for Trump. Because in my mind, he's kind of a Trojan horse for the AI people. Yeah. He just gave him $500 billion to build things that I think are insane. Mm-hmm. I'm not taking mRNA shots. I'm not like, it goes back to the whole thing of like, it sounds amazing. Mm-hmm. It sounds amazing, but like, this is all like an accelerationism, right? It sounds amazing as how Elon talks about terraforming Mars. Like he's like, to terraform Mars, we have to drop thermonuclear bombs on the poles of Mars. So that's how I see this stuff. It's like, they say it's for the good, but a lot of destruction has to take place first.
Did he really say drop thermonuclear bombs on the poles of Mars?
Yeah, I think he told it to Colbert. Yeah, like years ago.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, he might have changed his mind since then. But he was like, he said there was a fast way and a slow way. I don't remember what the slow way was, but the fast way was dropping thermonuclear bombs on the poles of Mars to make it habitable.
Have you heard the story about how there's like, they found isotopes on Mars that like are so rare, it's like they match the exact isotopes they found in like the thermonuclear test sites on Earth?
Yeah. Hey,
and it's like people think that there was like an ancient thermonuclear war on Mars or something.
Well, this will connect to my fringe theory. This is just a fringe theory from my brain now that I'll take outside of it. But like Elon's from a breakaway civilization. Mm-hmm. He's descendant of a ancient civilization that left Earth many, many years ago. Maybe that's why his grandfather was looking for the lost civilization of Kalahari. That's where they're from, and they went to Mars. And that's where he was doing a lot of this stuff, or had information passed down to him from an ancient species. I mean, look, anything's possible now. And I only say that because like Elon's quote is so good. What's the most likely outcome is the most entertaining. So for me,
the most likely outcome is the most entertaining.
Is that how it goes? Yeah.
Huh.
So for me, the most entertaining outcome would be him being from a breakaway civilization. And that's why he has all these technologies to rule the world. And go back to Mars, his home planet.
Yeah, and he's hopped up on ketamine, right?
So they say. If he is doing all this stuff, he's got to be hopped up on something.
Yeah.
Just like JFK was hopped up on stuff too. Yeah. What were they giving him? Was it? I forget what drug. He was on amphetamines or something.
Have you heard the story of JFK and Timothy Leary?
No.
Was it Timothy Leary? There was a story how this one lady named Mary, I forget her last name, but she was one of his like lovers, and she went to Timothy Leary and she's like, hey, I need some LSD. I have a really powerful friend that wants to try it, but she wouldn't tell him who it was. And he's like, I want to go with you. I can, give it to him and, explain it to him and all this stuff. She's like, no, you can't even know. I can't tell you anything about it. And the story is that she like gave Kennedy the LSD. They did LSD together, and that was like the precipice of him wanting to like back out of Vietnam and do all this stuff. And then that lady was whacked while she was on a run like a year later.
What?
This is who it was. Yeah, Mary Pinchot.
Holy crap.
Timothy Leary was associated with Mary Pinchot Meyer. And her husband was in the CIA too.
Of course.
Leary supplied her with LSD, and she used it with her lover JFK. There's a whole book about it. It's called Mary's Mosaic. And Leary later claimed that Meyer helped influence Kennedy's views on nuclear disarmament and rapprochement with Cuba.
Dude, they MK Ultra'd him.
Yeah, that's her. Yeah,
that's
right.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's a really wild story.
I'm pretty sure him and Jackie were on amphetamines too. Weren't they getting like some kind of crazy drug injected into them?
I don't know.
Yeah, like I think it was amphetamines. They called it like the Happy Doctor or something.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, and it ended. I mean, he stopped it at one point, but I'm pretty sure he was on something. But they all are. Yeah, they all are. You kind of have to be.
I always wonder what Trump's on. That guy's like a fucking machine.
Yeah, he claims to be clean.
Too. Like
Elon's definitely on something.
I know you've talked about Kanye too, how he's just like a workaholic. Yeah. And this is like,
I saw him eat nothing. Like I think I saw him eat once in like 24 hours.
Really?
It's crazy watching these people. They're just fame, like that level of fame, you almost become an alien. Like you're a different species. And like watching Kanye, I'm watching him do fashion, architecture, politics. Like he's trying to rewrite the Constitution in a night. With Reddit, and then making music all like in one space. And like,
how is he trying to rewrite the Constitution?
Oh, he thought he could weaponize the autists online to rewrite the Constitution to fit what he thought would be more like Christian-based views.
Oh wow!
And like he wanted to put blasphemy laws in place, which I get, but I'm like, I don't want that because I'm like, because we're totally deranged society. But I'm like, dude, you put blasphemy laws in place, then there's no you. Like you can't exist. No, there's no young Kanye, right? Yeah, and like there's no Manson. Like despite my like I have my own thing going on, I think I also believe in free will, right? So this is like a way of installing like a determinist worldview onto people, which is what AI is doing too. If you do like predictive policing and stuff like that. Yeah. So I'm against all of that, right? But he was really trying to like rewrite the Constitution, which is a hilarious thing to think. And I'd be like, you know what? I'm going to rewrite the Constitution.
Yeah.
Hilarious. He hired a constitutional lawyer.
Really?
I've talked to him. I know that lawyer. Like he has talked about two serious people like about this,
because the founding fathers went out of their way to make sure that religion and Christianity was in no way tied to the Constitution. Like those guys, a lot of those guys were anti-Christians.
Some of them were like pagans, I guess, and like some of them were Christian, but like it's
Masons.
There's a lot of that too. A lot of Masons still today.
Have you heard the original national anthem?
No.
It's like an ode to Bacchus.
No.
Yeah, the wine god.
Of course. I had no idea.
Yeah,
that's
wild
shit. The Masons, like, that's another boogeyman for people. They think it's all the Masons, what the Illuminati is, the Masons. I don't think it's that simple, but there's certainly super dark Masons out there, like doing weird stuff. And I've known some people who've become Masons, and they've said like, when you enter, you can become a light Mason or a dark Mason. This is one of these things I haven't looked into all that much, but like it's always been weird to me how many presidents have been Masons and how much architecture has been informed by Masonry, obviously, but like in DC in particular. So like, I don't know, but it just seems like another one of those things. Like it's just another weird dark cog in this like machine that's just grinding away at America and the world and all this stuff. But like my only real experience with going to one of those places, not the Masons, but the Oddfellows, was I went to an Oddfellows to play a show with my old band. It was like a death metal show. And we show up and it's an Oddfellows, and I see a door in the wall, and I pull it open and it's just a skeleton inside. Well, that's interesting. That's very interesting.
A real one?
Yeah.
Wow.
I put beer in its mouth, and then our van exploded.
Oh wow!
Yeah, not fully, but we were on the side of the road.
Didn't you say you played with Horse, the band?
We might have opened for them, but I know John Carroll, who was their drummer.
Oh really?
For a while, yeah. He's in the Sawtooth Grin, which is like one of my favorite bands.
Okay.
But yeah, Horse the band's great. But yeah, I was like playing in shows with like those bands for years, like for 10 years. Yeah. All around like the country, not like for half the country. We didn't make it really out west much, but during MySpace days. just booking tours on MySpace. And
I remember those days.
$10 to go to Alabama, for the night. Florida was always the best. Florida and Virginia were like our favorite places to go.
Tampa, Florida is the death metal capital of the world, man.
Is it Cannibal Corpse here or 6
Cannibal Corpse, a lot of them.
Yeah, dude, great metal in Florida. Shai Hulud came from here, great hardcore band that left Florida and then moved to my neck of the woods in New York and Poughkeepsie. Like I said, Manson. Yeah, I always loved coming to Florida. I almost died in Tampa though at one point.
Really?
Yeah, back in my drug days, I had bad issues with drugs and bought some things I shouldn't have bought.
What kind of drugs?
It was like OxyContin, I think. And I was I had a bad pill phase in my life. I'd broken both knees.
Oh, really?
At shows. One knee playing a show. Where was I? Somewhere in New York. The whole thing just, that was horrible. And then a few months later, I had a Dillinger Escape Plan show when they were playing 43% Burnt in the Chance in Poughkeepsie. Someone jumped off the balcony above me and landed on my knee and broke during that breakdown at the end of the song. Like, that sucked. But so I got like addicted to pills and I was in my early 20s. It was a real shame and a very horrible thing. So I came down here, still into that stuff. And a friend was like, we can get some good pills. And we went and I actually thought of this as I was driving here because I'm like, ooh, I kind of like had like an aftertaste of the pill, like being here.
Oh God,
bought pills
I know a lot of people who died from pills.
Oh, it's horrible. Bought pills from a dude outside, I think like a dog track or something. And
there's a dog track.
And this guy had an OD. He had OD'd years prior and lost all his fingers. So I picked the pills off of his mitten skin hand that had no fingers. It was like a balloon knots attached to his little fat skin hand.
Holy shit.
I'm just like, doop, and we snorted it. And I had never gotten so sick. I thought I was going to die.
Yeah.
It was the worst I've ever felt. And I was typically not doing stuff like that. After the pills, yeah, but like not snorting stuff ever, and that was really disgusting. Throwing up for like days.
Yeah.
But it was the highest I'd ever been. Like, it was insane how, how that was, went right to my brain. I'll never forget that guy's hand in the dark.
Jesus Christ.
Like I should have known from that. Like, you should not touch anything.
Yeah.
After, leaves this like giant bear claw. So that's my memory of Tampa and playing shows down here.
Yeah. A lot of drugs around here, man.
Yeah. It's just like us.
A lot of people who've died. I thought I was talking to my buddy the other day. I was like, dude, it's a miracle we made it through.
Seriously,
because we know so many, there's been so many casualties of fucking pills and opiates.
That's how me and my friends feel too. Yeah. Just like, because we were doing a lot of stuff, and horrible things like robo tripping.
Yeah.
Corseed and like, you can't even do that anymore though. Not that you should, but drinking, like, taking these pills and drinking 40s of Old English, like just ridiculous things. Listening to bands like Earth Crisis who were straight edge, singing along like I am straight edge while taking swigs of like Crazy Horse, and like I look back a lot. I'm like, how did we make it? Yeah, because we were very lucky. Very lucky.
Yeah, there's something weird about drugs and music where it's like the best music comes out of people who are on a lot of drugs.
Yeah,
or like have big time drug problems.
That's why the government gave the Doors acid. That's why everyone got acid.
Really?
Look what acid did to music.
Yeah.
Like with the Beatles, with the Beach Boys. Like, I love the Beach Boys. A big time Beach Boys fan. And when Brian Wilson started doing drugs, they got really, really good. That's how we got Pet Sounds. It's my favorite album,
really?
Right? God Only Knows is my favorite song. All my children were born to that song, and my wife walked down the aisle to that song. I'm obsessed with that song. I love that. It's such a beautiful song. But like, him doing really changed the way he viewed music. I guess he has synesthesia as well, where you correlate sounds and colors. Kanye says he has it too. But he hears these voices, and then the drugs accelerated that. And he sent Beach Boys out on tour, and he's like, I'm not touring anymore. I'm just going to stay home and write crazy music. Yeah. And Pet Sounds is crazy. And he might have been MK Ultra, honestly, because he had his life was crazy. After Pet Sounds, he did Smile, which is a great record. But that was like put in a vault for a long time and picked apart, and other songs from Smile, as he intended them to be, were put on other records. Like, that's how we got Good Vibrations is from Smile. And if you listen to Good Vibrations, how it came out initially, how he envisioned it, it was like this, path of the American history leading up to Good Vibrations. And it's such a beautiful crescendo. But he's on massive drugs. And while recording that, he's thinking he's manifesting fires. Like, there's a part on Smile where he's saying, it's about O'Leary's cow in Chicago fire and stuff. And he starts a fire in the studio, and they're all wearing like fireman hats. And I actually talked to the lady who played bass on that song, She's still alive. And she's amazing. She was part of the Wrecking Crew, which is part of that group that played a lot of his tracks in studio. And a fire started like on some down the road or something or across town. And he was like, I did it. I started that fire with my brain. You know, like so drugs were interesting. But like that's all to say that shouldn't do drugs. But it definitely made music way interesting. And then so he's doing that and making that. And now the Beatles are competing with him.
Yeah.
Because the Beatles are seeing, like, he sees the Beatles and he's like, I need to do something better. And the Beatles see him and then now they're competing. And like, I'm not the biggest, I like the Beatles, but I'm not the biggest fan. And but it's amazing to see that competition. And then how the drugs were injected into either camp. And then all of them, you know? But like, I'm very glad I don't do drugs anymore.
Yeah. And then you see like when artists get off drugs and they sober up, like the music's just not the same. There's like this intangible thing that disappears. It doesn't always work.
Yeah. I'm trying to think like maybe when Lil Wayne got out of jail, like it kind of stunk. I'm a big fan of Wayne. Like I like Carter 3 and stuff, but he's probably not sober now. But like, it doesn't always happen. They lose whatever that is. Like it's like a recklessness, or it opens up. But it's sad because like a lot of artists.
I think Gucci Mane's the best example. Like like you said, his stuff's still good, but like there was something about that moment, that period in time where he was just cranking out
fat Gucci
tracks. Yeah, fat fucking beer belly Gucci.
It was a good time.
Just cranking out multiple tracks per day, coming out on Dat Piff.
But yeah, dude. Oh man, I miss those rap blog days.
Yeah, dude.
I used to go to nowright.com all the time. It's like my favorite blog to forget rap songs. But like now he got out of jail and he's ripped and he looks good.
Yeah.
He's put out some good songs, but like I agree with like that song Lemonade, Old School Gucci. Is a great song.
First Day Out.
Oh god,
that's the best one.
I'm going to probably listen to that tonight now. Something about being in warm weather too always makes you want to hear Gucci. Yeah. He's from he's Georgia, right?
Atlanta,
yeah. I love that stuff though. But yeah, I don't know. Like the drugs, like we did it and it definitely influenced our music because we were writing some like real trippy, like weird death metal with jazz.
Yeah.
But it was fun to like just get in a basement and be like crazy, you know, and just write crazy stuff, you know, and what we had was like a 4-track recorder, like a Tascam, you know. And then somehow go out into the world all high and do crazy things and not go to jail.
And not die.
I don't know how. I really don't know how. We somehow sidestepped it. I mean, some of us went to jail. Yeah. Some of us didn't make it. But my core group of friends are still, thankfully, alive. Yeah. Despite the debauchery that we went through for many, many years.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always curious to see how also the government is still using drugs, you know, like, because the government obviously tries to weaponize everything they could get their hands on and try to that's like the most innovation and the most money goes into stuff for war, right? Like technology for war, drugs for war, like during the Cold War and stuff like that.
Big Pharma is part of the military industrial complex. Yeah. It's part of the media industrial complex. Like you watch TV and like every commercial's for some weird drug. Yeah. Which is why they're freaking out. I think that RFK says he's going to ban those. And like, if he does, I think that's great. You know, I don't think these corporations should have free speech.
Right.
You know, like Clearview AI is a good example of this. People were really upset when Clearview took everyone's faces off the internet. It's just scraped the internet of everyone's face to put into their database. Yeah. And then their CEO at the time was like, our corporation has the ability to do that because of freedom of speech. It's our expression. I'm like, wait, that doesn't extend to you. Yeah. That was his argument. I think it was like on ABC or CBS, something like that, where he said that. But I don't agree with that. And we're the only country other than New Zealand, I believe, that has these commercials. Yeah. And they're a joke to me. And I don't think they're safe. Yeah. Like these drugs are, everyone has like a case amount of sides.
Half of the commercial has to list the side effects.
Death, diarrhea.
Occasional pregnancy.
What?
Loss of limbs.
How? But like, they're certainly drugging us. Yeah. I think it's in our water. It's in the sky. Yeah. You know, I think it's coming out of they get you in every possible place. Yeah. Our grocery stores are filled with poison. Yeah. You know, we're very careful with what we give our kids just because like, I wish I was raised that way, but I wasn't, you know, my parents just gave us TV dinners out of a microwave. Right. And, I'm halfway okay. I have like a caveman skull and some really problematic thoughts, but like, you know, now that we know this stuff, like we are conscientious about like plastic. Yeah. And the water we drink. And like the fluoride in the water is an issue. You know, I really do think that. And like, I remember talking to the guy in our town who does the water department. And he was, I forget why he was there. He was there to count like our water to make sure our pipe was working where the city water was coming in. I'm like, I was telling him about like filtering water. He's like, the fluoride's not bad for you. Right. I'm like, all right, like, why do you think that? He's like, well, it's only a little bit. It's only a very small amount. It won't have any effect. And he's the whole cavity spiel, right? Like, it's good for your teeth, which doesn't make any sense.
Right.
But cool dude. Then he tells me, like, we go on and he tells me, he says, I will be fined by the county if I stop putting fluoride in the water. Yeah. And I have to pay like some ridiculous amount for mouthwash for the public schools. I'm like, that's interesting. Yep. And then he was like, and then honestly, he's like, I've like tested fluoride in water, and it just like has this insane shelf life. Like, just doesn't go away. Yeah. He was like, well, that was weird. I'm like, that's what I'm saying, dude. So they find any way to get this stuff into you. It's like almost nothing is safe because every part of your life has been infiltrated by this stuff. You know? Like, it's coming out of the sky, it's coming in the ground. You just do your best. Like, you're not gonna. I'm not gonna live in a bubble to avoid this stuff. Like, I know that I got plastic all up in this body. Yeah, for lots of reasons, and like I'm covered in tattoos. And that's probably also not great. Right. So, like, I do my best now, and also teach our kids, the dangers. But sometimes it is funny. Like we try not to eat salmon too much. Like, because salmon's like part bug. You ever seen that? Like the bioengineered salmon that
you mean like the farm raised salmon?
Yeah, that they've like it's like bioengineered, and the FDA approved it back in the 90s, and they've got all these salmon farms, bioengineered salmon farms out west that keep breaking out into the wild population.
Oh no, I haven't seen this
for years. So like salmon
break out.
Oh, there's been a ton of like just collapses of the nets, and they're just like, they're part of the real thing now. So like, they're procreating with normal wild salmon. So like, you don't know what salmon is. Really, but that you could say that for lots of things these days. But we've watched the color of salmon change. Over years. Yeah. It's weird.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be. It's not supposed to be that pink color.
No, it's super weird.
Yeah.
And I used to love salmon, so but we tell our kids this, and sometimes I forget. Like, I tell our 8-year-old that. I don't tell our 4-year-old that. And we were at a party recently, and some dinner thing. They gave out salmon. I was just gonna be respectful. I'm gonna eat. I'm not gonna stop the party and be like, "This is bug."
That person,
But my son does. He's like, "Oh, I don't eat salmon. This is like bug." I'm like, "Oh man, I'm proud, but maybe we gotta teach him not to say it in public all the time."
Yeah.
But I do. There's certain things we talk about that I think it's good for kids to know at an early age, and just be careful because it is a crazy, depraved world. And everyone's out to get you, but you don't want to make them paranoid.
Yeah, I mean, you can really tell the difference. Like, if we go on like a trip to like Costa Rica or something for a week, and I can eat fucking anything, pizza, burgers, tacos, drink beer, and I feel fucking great. I feel light. And then you come back home and you realize, like, just going to Chipotle, you feel like you just ate a pound of concrete. After
it affects your whole body.
It's super heavy. The difference is crazy. That you can feel it.
It's gross to me. I really, that's why it's like it's this weird controversial topic these days. We were talking about in the political world about like if food stamps should allow people to buy this poison stuff.
Right.
My take is no, because it's our money, and I'd rather not poison people. I also don't want my money going to like abortions or
Stinger missiles,
Palantir, or like the people getting killed with the death penalty. Like, I don't want to support anything like that, right? So that falls in line with how I feel, but people just have that option. I'm like, you have the option with your own money. I'd rather not. I also like, it's a hard thing to talk about with people where like they want to tell companies don't make that stuff. But I'll stop there though, right? Because I'm like, I don't want to really tell the companies what they can and can't do. But it's all like a gray area because that's in conflict with my idea of the monopolies now, right? And like, what are we going to do with these giant tech companies that are taking over? As I said, like it's a reflective of what happened with the monopolies with Teddy Roosevelt and the trust busting and all that stuff. So it's like, I don't really agree with it. Someone like Milton Friedman would say, competition is the best way to take care of a monopoly. And I think that's probably the best way, because there's really no taking care of monopolies. Like Standard Oil was broken up, and they eventually just started like re-emerging, and like they'd be like, okay, ExxonMobil is now back together, these two are back together. But there's still a network of them. Standard Oil still is not here, but it is here. It's just been fractured across the country, so it's not as powerful. It's probably still doing the same things. So I'm just, it's tough. It's just not one right answer, I think, to a lot of this stuff.
Right.
And the only way to really fix
and there's
all this stuff.
Sometimes the reaction can be an overreaction. It can be too much. Like, I always worry about that with like the vaccine stuff, right? Because like the COVID vaccines come out now, a lot of people think, and me, I don't know, right? Maybe all vaccines are bad, but maybe not. Maybe that's totally wrong. Maybe a lot of them are really fucking good. I mean, we know fucking ancient people were using like ancient versions of vaccines with antibodies and using that stuff to cure ailments and plague and stuff like this.
I think there was something to those older vaccines. Like not just like those, but like the ones we had when we were kids. But there's also ones like the vaccine schedule is ridiculous. All that's insane. I'm glad we're having that conversation as a society. But yeah, the backlash, we could overcompensate into oblivion
for sure.
Right. So you got to be careful. You know, I've got one of our kids does nothing. Right. And she's got the best immune system of all of our kids. Our oldest has a few, and we delayed his schedule because we were at that point, even this is pre-COVID, everything. I was already distrusting my wife more so, right? She was like, we're going to just hold off on a few of these things. It's like, that's a lot to give a kid at once. And I never really thought about it. You know? So I was like, all right, cool. We got kicked out of different practices for not doing all of them at once. And then COVID happened, and it was like a crazy stressful time for obviously everyone, but for me personally, it was like losing the job. Wife was pregnant with our second. We had closed on our first house the day New York State shut down. So I was like experiencing stress to a whole new degree. Like honestly, the pandemic was the least of my problems. Like it was like all this other stuff was crazy. So I go to my doctor who I'd been going to for years, and I'm like, hey, like my heart just feels crazy. Like I'm just like stressed. Like what should I do? I'm like, I'm just looking for like, we're going to change your diet. We're going to do this and that. I didn't realize she had gone so unhinged where she was like, the best thing you can do for yourself is take the COVID shot right now. And I was like,
that's what she said.
And she told me like, I made my husband do it. I made my little kids do it. You know, I make my husband mask up at the gym. And I was like, oh wow, I'm surrounded by a crazy person. It happened to be the day that New York lifted the mask ban. They said you didn't have to wear a mask in public anymore, which we weren't doing. Like Nancy and I weren't doing it, but like, the hospitals made you do it, and the doctor practice made you do it. And the practice was running around like crazy. They were like, what are we going to do without masks on? Like they were so scared. So that should have been like an inkling as to what I was getting into. But I was shocked. That was her excuse. That was her like thing to me. And I was like, well, she was like, it would alleviate your stress with the pandemic. I'm like, that is literally like the last. I'm like, I just need to know how to deal with stress better. I've always been a stressed out person, but like it was peak stress that time. So that's, you know, tie all that in with the technocracy and all this stuff, like experts in charge. She's allegedly an expert, but she's lost her mind. So how am I supposed to have any trust in these institutions, you know, when I'm seeing them lose their minds? But like, and then her response is now discrediting real problems, you know, like you do need a vaccine perhaps if you go to some crazy place and they've got something breaking out. But like, I'm more into the old school ones. Than these new like technological like mRNA stuff. They're just it's too experimental now. So that's gonna be an interesting way to navigate the future too.
And like for my kids, our pediatrician is like, they kicked us out because we said we didn't want to do the vaccines. So like they're like, you can't come here anymore because you're going to put all the other people at risk.
It's crazy.
So and we went around everywhere. We've been looking for like holistic doctors that don't push those things everywhere, and they all suck.
Some of them are like
they're all garbage. None of them give a fuck. That's our problem. Not that they're too woo-woo. It's just like they don't fucking pay attention. We really love the fucking lady doctor pediatrician who is pushing the vaccines because she like pays the most attention to the kids. She's like the most affectionate. She like gives them the time of day. But like at the same time, so now we're like to the point where we're just trying to like, oh, we're gonna just delay. We're gonna delay, and like not saying no because like she's the only one who seems to care. But at like the same time, we don't want to, you know, do that fucking full schedule of vaccines all at once with these young kids.
It's weird. I think it's a lot, you know, and then you think about a lot of different diseases and who knows what they're going to attribute to. Like RFK said, he's going to give us like the answer to where autism, like a lot of autism is coming from. Like, I'm like, what does that even mean? Because it's kind of like the boogeyman thing. It's a lot of things. You know, it's like our diet is terrible. The sky is filled with trash. You know, I got this whole thing I talk about fake clouds, and like there's fake clouds. Like I mean like there's real clouds up there, but they're also filled with a lot of weird forever chemicals that are all over the place.
I've seen the videos of the people making clouds, the machines that make clouds.
There are machine clouds, machine-made clouds. There's chemtrails. There's clouds that are just made up, mutilated with forever chemicals.
Dude, we just had 2 crazy hurricanes, and half my friends all believed that the CIA made the hurricanes.
Yeah, we're in the future.
There's a video of Michio Kaku talking about this like 10 years ago.
Oh yeah, I know.
Talking about how we created thunderstorms in Vietnam, I think.
Yeah, Operation Popeye.
Is that what it was?
Yeah. In Vietnam, they decided to get the Viet Cong washed out of their tunnels. They were going to accelerate the tsunami season with seeding. Yeah, look at that cloud machine.
Oh, here's the video of the cloud machine.
Dude, this thing is nuts.
That is insane, bro. What is the explanation for this?
Don't
wait, he'll tell
worry
us.
if you can't hear what I'm saying. I couldn't even hear myself. This is the loudest sound you could possibly conceive. And as it turns out, the cleanest.
The cleanest. Wow.
Now, the most amazing thing is that cloud up there, which was generated by the engine, is just a mixture of hydrogen and oxygen. It's water vapor. And in about an hour's time, someone in Mississippi is going to get wet washing. It will actually rain.
Yep.
Wow.
It's going to rain good stuff. But this is like, that's got to be a problem. Oh, look at this guy. He's getting fake rain on from the fake cloud. He's so happy. He's probably got 3 arms now and lost his eyesight. But like the things they're doing in the sky are so alarming. You know, like Bill Gates wants to block out the sun with dust. You seen that?
I saw that. Yeah,
ScopeX. Mm-hmm. And so that seems like a fringe idea. And he keeps getting turned down, I guess, for funding. But they did Operation Sea Spray back in the day off the coast of San Francisco, where they're shooting biowarfare into the air over the city to see how it affects people, because they were like, how do we counter bioterrorism? Let's do bioterrorism, get people sick, and then we'll figure it out. But now I think they're actually doing a sort of ScopeX situation in San Francisco, where the military is spraying like dust in the air to reflect the sunlight back up to counter climate change.
I read about this. Yeah.
Bill Gates got his dream.
Jesus Christ, dude. I had somebody explain it to me the best way ever. They're explaining to me like how technology, like how we're surrounded by screens all the time under artificial light and inside all day. It's like turning us, it's like, you've heard the stories of what happens to the orcas at SeaWorld when they live their lives. They spend decades inside these tanks.
Oh, how horrible it is.
They go crazy.
Yeah.
They go crazy and they kill the trainers. He's like, that's basically what's happening to us. We're the orcas inside those tanks in SeaWorld. We're not in the ocean anymore.
Dude, I don't know if you're seeing it down here, but like I am experiencing a rise in mental illness in people I know. Like from back home in New York or just on the road. Like it just seems people are more on the edge than they've ever been.
Yeah.
And it has to do with all these things. Politics is driving people crazy.
Yeah.
Because it's a disease. But yeah, like normal people, like threatening my life. Like not just like, you know, like we do public things and you're like kind of on the news and sometimes people hear things you say they don't like and you send you a death threat online. I got people in real life who like stalkers. I've got like,
really?
Like, yeah, dude, it's crazy. And like, it's nuts. Like I've known these people, you know.
Oh, like friends.
People, not I wouldn't say friends, but like people I've known.
Yeah.
More like associates, we'll say.
Yeah.
Like people I've known, and it's just I'm watching people lose their minds.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm catching old friends in lies that we haven't seen in a long time, like big lies, like maybe they're not married lies, and they've been telling us for years. We haven't seen them, right? So we can get away with lies.
Yeah.
And it's all happening at the same time, you know. And it's like all over the place.
Yeah.
And then you're seeing like all these really crazy, depraved crimes happening in the cities, like people lighting themselves on fire. I saw that guy in New York who was the corpse.
No, I did not see that.
I think someone died. I think someone then robbed the corpse, and I believe another person went and robbed that corpse.
What? When was this?
Like a few days ago.
What?
Look up corpse. That's a good name for a band in Florida.
Yeah, that is a good name. That sounds like a title to a title track for Cannibal Corpse. Yeah.
Right.
NYPD search for man accused of sexually violating a corpse on a Manhattan subway.
What is going on?
Dude.
What is going on? Yeah, it was Joe Biden.
Yeah. It was Hunter.
Yeah. Dude, it's so crazy. And look, this is stuff that's been going on for a long time, unfortunately. Like, you know, about Ed Gein and stuff and like weird serial killer stuff. But this is like nonchalant daylight necrophilia. Why? So I don't know.
He was on fentanyl.
Yeah. The rise in mental illness is going to be concerning.
It's crazy.
You know, like you've seen like Luigi Mangione stuff. You know, like the guy. Now, I guess there was a copycat today. They didn't do anything, but I think they showed up to United Health headquarters looking to do the same thing.
Really?
And you see people calling for violence. I'm like very anti that. You know, like I oppose a lot of these things, and I even understand Mangione's problem allegedly that he has with the system because it sucks. I don't want to go kill people, right? I don't want to do that. I don't like the same way like the Unabomber might say things in his manifesto that I really agree with. I don't want to I don't want to like promote the violence. Yeah. But you're seeing a lot of people, like prominent people, like embrace the violence. And so that's going to turn into something way, way too dark. You know, I don't know where that goes, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you know, everyone makes fun of Tim for talking about Civil War and stuff.
They make fun of him for it?
Oh, because he says it like every episode.
Oh, does
it's
he?
gonna be a civil war.
Really? Oh,
because he's always
okay,
looking. He's looking at like how society has been breaking down and politics has driven this divide between us, and that people are willing to do violence. We saw a lot of that during like the riots in 2020. We saw assassinations. We saw assassination attempts on presidents.
Yeah.
And you just look at Mexico. I think they assassinated 23 of their own presidential.
Yeah. People running for president.
Dude, that's insane.
It's insane.
And that's just right there,
Yeah.
So this willingness to violence is really picking up steam, and you're seeing like people like understand violence.
How does he think a civil war will play out in the U.S.?
I think his idea would be like, it's not going to be like I think when he says it, people expect it to be like, we're going to march towards each other. It's going to be like Grant, Lincoln. I think he sees like pockets of violence across the country that will be ideological, right? And it'll be, whatever camps, the left versus right, like that's a vague descriptor these days because they're all fractured. But I think it's like a willingness for political violence. And I also think it'll be, in my opinion, I don't know if he thinks this, but like in my opinion, a lot of it will be bolstered by the government, right? Like you think if you know Northwoods is possible, or at least they thought of it, then I will be skeptical of most things, right?
Yeah.
And like there was basically a civil war in Italy. You know about the years of lead? So in Italy, I want to say this is like from the 60s to the 80s, there was just insane false flag operations against the opposing political sides, right? And so it was like real things, real violence, bombs, shootings, kidnappings, people died, but a lot of it was done as false flags from like the opposing side, then what a Northwoods would have done, right? We're gonna blow up our own people, shoot our own people to convince them that we have to go to war with Cuba, right? And that was Lemnitzer, right? The guy who brought that idea to Kennedy, and Kennedy fired. And Lemnitzer's next job was NATO. And a lot of people say NATO might have had a hand in the false flag operations during the years of lead in Italy, which are very similar to what he proposed with Northwoods.
Wow.
So like, I think a lot of things are possible knowing that if we're moving towards violence and the people in charge, I think it's beyond bipartisan. Like it's not just like a right versus left thing. I think there's like a uniparty, for lack of a better word, and they are deeply entrenched, and it's the bureaucratic state that's been there forever, right? That has a lot of power. It's with these talking heads, these figureheads, they come and go, right? You get voted in and out, and then you get a book deal or a job at CNN or whatever, or Newsmax, But like these people who are there for so long, they want that power. They want the power over us. They love the stuff like Palantir and Clearview, and they totally have the idea of false flags at their disposal. So if we're moving towards some type of sustained violence in this country against one another, like a civil war, but in more fragmented, pockets of the country, like the years of lead in Italy, it does seem like it's possible. And I'm just basing that off what I saw during the 2020 summer riots. You're seeing cities burn. You're seeing politicians donate money to bail out arsonists, like Kamala. Like she had staff donating money to arsonists to get out of jail. And like, in my opinion, I see a lot of this violence, this terrorism, domestic terrorism, being born out of the universities, like because they're like ideological death camps that produce a lot of mental illness. It sucked being a part of that university, the college world for so long, and you're totally powerless. Like you can do your best. I want to just teach kids things like how to read, how to write, have good skills. But then you're watching professors all around you being like Marxism. So like when I'm saying it's come out of the universities, I'm saying like this is the line I see in my mind to war now as we see it, or like the pockets of real domestic terrorism during 2020. The Weather Underground, domestic terrorists, Marxists from like the 60s and 70s, they I don't think they killed a lot of people, but they killed some. I think they killed themselves by accident. They were building bombs and stuff. They were Marxists. They believed in we should destroy this system. And a lot of them became fugitives, and a lot of them went to jail. And then Bill Clinton pardoned one on his last day in office, straight up domestic terrorist, Susan Rosenberg. And then my old genocidal maniac governor, Cuomo, pardoned Weather Underground person on his last day in office. And you'll see like a bunch of them that were let out. And what do they end up doing? I forget that one guy's name who was pardoned early on with Clinton as well. Bill something, but they all become professors, you know, and they all start to infiltrate the universities, because that then goes in hand with what Yuri Bezmenov was saying about taking care. You know, how do you ideologically subvert this society? Oh, this country has said you need to go to college. We're going to take that over and totally destroy your brains now and turn you into soldiers for us. So I see a lot of the issues, a lot of the violence, a lot of people, the nihilism being born out of the universities, and then to connect that to the summer of what they call the summer of love. Act Blue was funneling a lot of that money to the organizations on the ground doing the protesting. Act Blue was part of Thousand Currents. Thousand Currents was on the board was Susan Rosenberg. So it's like a domestic terrorist who's been pardoned, working with laundering money to today's domestic terrorists. And they both had, and the BLM, those two women said they were Marxists. So it's like a very clear line in my mind of domestic terrorism and war and against the American people, you know? So I don't know how you fight that, you know, because I don't want to censor those ideas. You know, that's some people would say, well, we just get rid of them, exile them. I don't think that's the way to do it, because evil will always come back. It's always going to pop back up. It's going to have to teach like the kids how to have a better foundation and how to counter that in there as they grow up. And hopefully not with the surveillance state, but that'll be there too. Because there's no escaping it. But yeah, I don't know. That's I guess the way Tim would see it in terms of fragmented civil war. I guess I feel like we've been the government's been at war with the American people for decades. I think we've been like an invisible war, like a war on our reality, a war on our brains. I think like the technocracy has probably already been in place, you know, in many ways. Like people argued, like I think I said the FDR was kind of like, that was like a soft technocracy, but like, you know, we started talking about JFK at the beginning of the episode. That's a very symbolic day that he died, obviously. The day he died is a very symbolic day. But it's interesting in my mind, symbolically, because two other people died that day who were also very opposed to the technological state. And that's Aldous Huxley, who wrote Brave New World, who, although he was a eugenicist, you know, Brave New World is kind of like a cautionary tale of this insane world. And C.S. Lewis also died that day, same day. And he wrote one of the greatest essays. He wrote one of the greatest essays on the fears of the technological state, called the Willing Slaves of the Welfare State. Two writers I really look up to, but it's just very interesting, you know, that JFK, and you know, I think he was taken out by the military-industrial complex, whatever that is in your mind. So I think like there's been a war on the American people since definitely that day, and outwardly so. Probably started, you could say, you go back to Woodrow Wilson and all this stuff, and say it started then too, for sure. But I think it accelerated that day, and it never stopped. And whatever's happening now is part of this like giant umbrella of war that our government's been waging against us forever. But I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic. I still have.
We're gonna have to move to the Amazon.
Yeah, I might not be safe there either.
Maybe not.
They're taking over everywhere. They're cutting down the trees. But no, I despite all the darkness in the world, I still have like hope for the future. You know, I have hope for the kids, and you know, I don't think it's inescapable, but it's just you know, life moves on no matter what. You know, we'll be fine. You know, they just might read your thoughts. So you just have to train yourself better at thinking.
Sleep tight. Shane Cashman, thanks, brother.
Thanks.
This was fucking fascinating conversation. Tell people where they can find your shit, where they can read your work, your podcast, all that.
Awesome stuff, dude. It was a pleasure. Awesome to be in the studio. I've watched so many shows.
This is you're one of the last podcasts in the studio. We're getting ready to move.
The new studio looks amazing. Those pictures are crazy. That's awesome. But yeah, dude, it's so awesome to be here and talk. I love it. You can find me online at Shane Cashman, all the places, and the show's Inverted World Live. That's every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern time on YouTube and on Peter Thiel's Rumble. And that's about it. All my books are at shanecashman.com.
Oh hell yeah, man. Cool, man. I'll link it all below.
Sick.
All right, man. Good night, everybody.